Chapter 2403. 2403-2403 stood guard. News of victory. The front lines have won a huge victory. General Wang has advanced to Undying Emperor level. He alone stands guard over the Wall of Protection, killing trillions of sea monster. The Wall of Protection has won. General Wang has become Undying Emperor. He alone stands guard. Congratulations to humanity. Victory, victory, ha ha ha. This time it's all thanks to General Wang. Not long ago before he advanced, he had killed many pinnacle god-level sea monsters. This victory is all thanks to General Wang. The battle situation at the Wall of Protection, under the orders of the highest commander, was transmitted to the AI. When everyone saw the news on the AI, their faces were filled with excitement. The worry and fear of the entire Tianzi continent had finally been released. News of victory. For General Wang to level up to the Undying Emperor level, for him to guard the entire Wall of Protection, all the people of Tianzi continent were filled with gratitude and excitement. General Wang was a hero of humanity. He's too strong. This time it's all thanks to General Wang. General Wang wasn't originally from Tianzi continent. To be able to defend our Tianzi continent, he's our benefactor and hero. Right, the people of Sky City and Sword Domain still wanted to suppress General Wang and get help from an array. Now that they've been killed, they deserve it. In front of the Wall of Protection, everyone looked at the majestic figure on the sea and sighed with respect. The entire Wall of Protection was filled with excitement and joy. Only the people from the Sky City and the Sword Domain had ugly expressions. Now, on the Wall of Protection, everyone knew that all the experts from the Sky City and the Sword Domain had been killed by General Wang, especially Sky City. There weren't many Eternal God Lord level warriors left. The rest of the two forces had ugly expressions. They looked at the powerful figure in front of them, clenching their fist. Grandpa and Patriarch are dead, killed by the Dragon King. Almost all the warriors of Sky City have been killed. Now, we can only wait for the God King to return and kill him. When the godly monarch comes, we will definitely be able to kill him. He has just stepped into the undying godly monarch realm. Our godly monarch has already stepped into the realm for hundreds of thousands of years. In a corner of the Wall of Protection, dozens of youths stood there with clenched fists and faces filled with hatred. They were the most powerful group of children in Sky City. However, their grandpa, all of their reliance, had been killed. Such hatred was irreconcilable. However, with their strength, they were like ants compared to the vast figure in front of them. They could only pray that the God King would return and kill him. They looked into the depths of the ocean, where vast energy blotted out the sky and the sun. The undying God King's battle was still going on. Our God King is fighting with the undying God King sea monster in the depths. He's here hunting ordinary sea monsters, and he even killed our Sky City and Sword Domain warriors. Now, why is he the hero of the entire human race? He killed so many of our Sky City and Sword Domain warriors. What right does he have to be called a hero? The youths were filled with unwillingness as they listened to the discussions around them, looking at the cheers of everyone in the AI. Tell them what happened here, hero? He killed so many of us. He doesn't have the right to be called a hero. That's right, they killed so many of us, yet they can still enjoy such glory and glory. It's not fair, it's not fair. The expressions of the youths were somewhat distorted. Very soon, the matter of General Wang killing a large number of Sky City and Sword Domain experts spread through the AI. This was nothing but a little surprise to the citizens of the Mystic Heaven Domain, the land of combat arts, and the Federation region. However, to many people from Sky City and the Sword Domain, they felt extremely furious. Why would a godly monarch kill all the experts in the Sky City's Sword Domain? Even if you were a hero of humanity, you could not kill their experts wantonly. Especially after learning that all the godlords above rank 8, and even more than 80% of the godlords in the Sky City had been killed, many people were extremely furious. The entire AI seemed to be boiling. Many of the upper echelons of the Federation noticed this too, but they ignored it. This news was just a small matter. To the undying God King, it didn't affect the Dragon King at all. Only the Sky God King and Sword God King had any influence. However, this wasn't something the upper echelons of the Federation could consider. The four God Kings were all high and mighty. Now that there was one more God King, These matters had to be settled by the god kings themselves. They had no right to interfere. In fact, the noise on the AI had no effect on the godly monarch at all. Roar, roar, roar. At this moment, a series of extremely terrifying roars sounded in the ocean. Roar, roar, roar. When this roar was heard, the countless sea monsters in the surrounding echoed the roar at the same time. The roar reverberated throughout the entire sky. Everyone immediately covered their ears and looked over in shock. Hey! This group of sea monsters is... Wang Xian saw the sea monsters roaring in the distance and was astonished. Roar, roar. At this moment, a roar came from the depths of the ocean in response. Roar, roar. The sea monsters looked at Wang Xian in horror. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At this moment, the sea monsters were disappearing. Hey! The sea monsters are escaping. Wang Xian's expression changed slightly as he flew forward quickly. At this moment, he completely gave up on the weak sea monsters and attacked the powerful sea monsters directly. He had already killed his way from the 50th region to the 20th region. The number of level 8 sea monsters that had died at his hands had reached tens of thousands. There were even hundreds of sea monsters at the peak of the Master God realm. We won. We won. The sea monsters have escaped. The sea monsters have escaped. Yes, we won. Ha ha ha. General Wang single-handedly killed hundreds of millions of sea monsters. They have escaped. Although Wang Xian was very disappointed by the escape of the sea monsters, the humans on the wall of protection were filled with excitement. This time, even the people from the Sword Domain and the city in the sky heaved a sigh of relief in their heart. This war lasted for 11 days. More than 100 million humans had died. This was the lowest number among the 3 catastrophes. The reason why there were so few losses was naturally due to Wang Xian's advancement to the Immortal King realm. Today, the Dragon King was the only one who didn't even make a move after killing the sea monsters. Due to the existence of the Dragon King, the humans of the Tianzi continent had suffered a great loss. Forget it, let's just escape. I have gained enough this time. Wang Xian looked at the escaping Eternal Lord sea monsters and shook his head slightly. Some of the powerful sea monsters sensed that something was wrong and gave up on the invasion. Apparently, the Immortal Lord sea monsters had also responded. Even though the sea monsters had escaped, the rewards this time were enough. Chapter 2404. 2404 2404 Dragon King, I will definitely kill you. We won, ha ha ha, we won, we won. Cheers rang out on the wall of protection. When Wang Xian heard the cheers, a smile appeared on his face. He flew over from the surface of the sea and landed on the wall of protection. His gaze swept across the humans of the Tianzi continent who were cheering and celebrating. Thank you, Dragon King, for helping our Tianzi continent to withstand this calamity. The highest commander and a group of experts flew over and thanked Wang Xian excitedly. Okay. Wang Xian nodded at them. Thank you, Dragon King, for saving our Tianzi continent. The people of the Tianzi continent who were gathered around shouted at Wang Xian respectfully. You guys handle the rest of the matters. I'll go to the depths of the ocean and take a look. Wang Xian looked at the highest commander and said, Yes, yes, General Wang. Everyone immediately nodded their heads. Let's go and take a look. Senior Shen Tianzi is actually able to fight against 4 people by himself. He has a very deep foundation. If I were to master all the formations that I gave him previously, he should be able to fight against those of a higher level. Wang Xian thought to himself. With a move of his body, he flew towards the depths of the ocean. The terrifying energy there blotted out the sky and covered the sun. The entire sky was a battlefield. The closer he got, the more he could feel the destructive power in front of him. When a god-level master got close, just the aftershocks alone could destroy him. Wang Xian looked over. The Sky Celestial King, Sword Celestial King, and Battle SPNX Elder were fighting against an immortal god-level sea monster respectively. The Sky Celestial King and Combat Master were at a disadvantage while the Sword Celestial King was suppressing the other immortal king-level sea monster. Their strength could basically be seen at a glance. On the other side, Shen Tianzi was fighting against 4 immortal king-level sea monsters by himself without being at a disadvantage. One by one, the formations came in handy. Their strength was extremely terrifying. Senior Shen Tianzi, do you need help? Wang Xian asked Shen Tianzi with a smile on his face. The sudden appearance of Wang Xian's voice caused Shen Tianzi to be slightly shocked. A hint of shock could be seen in his eyes. Little brother Wang Xian, I was lucky enough to possess the combat strength of an immortal godly king. I took care of the wall of protection. As Shen Tianzi spoke, Wang Xian interrupted him and replied with a chuckle. What? Shen Tianzi could not help but exclaim in shock. He could not believe it. He already had the combat strength of an immortal king? How long had he been in the Tianzi continent? At that time, he only had the combat strength of an eternal god lord level 2. Now, he had the combat strength of an immortal king in less than half a year. How could he believe this? He was already shocked that Wang Xian had the combat strength of an immortal king. Gulp. Good. Haha, little brother Wang Xian, come and help me. However, he quickly regained his senses and couldn't help but laugh out loud. After all, this person had a connection with that god lord. Even with such heaven-defying abilities, he could barely convince himself. Of course, it was just a self-hypnosis to convince himself. The god lord had this little brother Wang Xian who was heaven-defying. If he didn't know more about the Celestial Emperor, he would have suspected that he was the reincarnation of the Celestial Emperor. Boom! Wang Xian moved his body and an extremely powerful substantial law attacked one of the immortal Celestial King sea monsters. It was a sea monster with a pitch-black body and 18 claws. It was about 5,000 meters in size and every swing of its claws emitted a powerful law-eroding force. Wang Xian's sudden attack made it panic. Roar. He could not help but roar at the 3 godly king sea monsters around him. Roar. The godly king sea monsters responded one after another. They trembled slightly and disappeared instantly. They escaped. The catastrophe this time is finally over. When Shen Tianzi saw the few godly king sea monsters escaping, he heaved a sigh of relief. It was already his limit to fend off 4 sea monsters of the same level. I didn't expect this. I really didn't expect little brother Wang Xian to break through to the immortal godly king realm. What a surprise! At this moment, Mo Hen's voice rang out from the side. A slightly chubby figure instantly appeared in front of Wang Xian. I was just lucky. Wang Xian looked at the old man and nodded with a smile on his face. He actually advanced to the immortal king realm. Not far away, the Sky King of Sky City looked at Wang Xian in astonishment. His expression kept changing. Sky City had a conflict with him. Now that he had advanced to the immortal king realm, it was definitely not a good thing for the entire Sky City. The Sky King stood there with a sullen face and did not go over. Beside him, Sword Domain Sword God King saw another Undying God King appearing in Tianzi continent. He was just about to go over to greet him, when he suddenly realized that there were urgent messages flashing. When he saw the message, his expression changed. He immediately teleported towards the wall of protection. Sky God King saw Sword God King leave and immediately left too. Hey! Why are those 2 fellows so ignorant of the rules? Another Celestial King has been born in our Tianzi continent. They still don't know how to come over and greet us. Mo Hen said coldly when he saw the Sky Celestial King and the Sword God King suddenly leave. Wang Xian looked at the 2 figures meaningfully and revealed a smile. They might not be sure that all the experts under them had been killed by him. Once they found out, they would probably come over and fight him to the death. The city in the sky will definitely be destroyed. If the Sword God King of the Sword Domain doesn't know what's good for him, he will destroy them all. Wang Xian thought to himself. Currently, all the members of the Dragon Palace were digesting the resources after the Great War. With the dragon blood in the dragon pool of the Dragon Palace, it was sufficient for the 13 members of the Dragon Palace other than Ao Xingmu to advance to the immortal godly king realm. However, Wang Xian was not prepared to use all the resources to gather the godly king expert. The Dragon Palace only needed to increase the combat strength of 5 godly kings. The rest would be used to increase the strength of the other disciples. The combat strength of a peak master god would need at least 20 of them. In 2 days at most, the improvement of the members of the Dragon Palace would be over. At that time, it would be time for him to compete with the city in the sky and even the sword domain. Let's go back to the wall of protection first. This time, it's all thanks to little brother Wang Xian. Otherwise, it would be difficult to defend the wall of protection. Shen Tianzi smiled at Wang Xian and said, I won't be going. Senior Shen Tianzi, in the future, you guys don't have to worry about me, the city in the sky, and the sword domain. I can settle it myself. I'll make a trip back first. If nothing goes wrong, I'll be back in 2 to 3 days, Wang Xian said to Shen Tianzi with a smile on his face. Shen Tianzi was slightly stunned. He didn't understand what he meant. However, Wang Xian waved his hand and disappeared instantly. This time, he disappeared and returned to the Dragon Palace, which was also the boundless galaxy. Hey, what's going on? Mo Hen looked at Wang Xian, who had suddenly disappeared, in astonishment. Dragon King, I will definitely kill you. Dragon King, I will definitely kill you. At this moment, 2 furious roars were heard. Chapter 2405. 2405-2405 Memorial. Battle. 1. Dragon King, I will kill you. Dragon King, I will kill you. Angry roars reverberated in the sky and the ocean. Shen Tianzi and John Fa Mo Hen, who were standing in the depths of the ocean, were slightly stunned. What's going on? Why are those 2 guys so angry? Battle tactic. Mo Hen looked in the direction of the wall of protection with a stunned expression on his face. Let's go and take a look. Shen Tianzi raised his eyebrows. He suddenly recalled what Wang Xian said before he left. His heart skipped a beat and he immediately flew towards the direction of the wall of protection. Battle tactic. Mo Hen also followed closely behind curiously. The speed of the 2 of them was very fast. When they had just flown over, they saw 2 figures on the wall of protection looking in their direction with murderous looks on their faces. What about the Dragon King? The Sword God King looked at the 2 of them with a cold face and asked with blood-red eyes. Who are you asking? Be more polite. Seeing the Sword God King's power, Mo Hen curled his lips and said directly, What about the Dragon King? However, to Mo Hen's surprise, the Sword God King asked angrily again, not giving him any face at all. What happened? Shen Tianzi heard his words and frowned. He gestured to Mo Hen not to be impulsive and asked him calmly. He actually killed all the experts above the 8th level of the Eternal Master level in our sword domain. He killed them all. All the experts that our sword domain has accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years have been killed. It's hard for me, the Sword God King, not to kill that Dragon King for this revenge. The Sword God King's tone softened when he heard Shen Tianzi's words. However, his eyes were still bloodshot. Almost all the God Lord experts of my Sky City have been killed. At this moment, the Sky God King flew over. His body was filled with a dense murderous aura. Dragon King, why did you kill the experts of Sky City and the Sword Domain? Shen Tianzi swept a glance at the 2 of them. He looked down and asked the experts below indifferently. Lord Godly Monarch. The Supreme Commander cupped his hands respectfully and swept his gaze across the Godly Monarchs in reverence. Lord Godly Monarch, I will not be biased or conceal anything from you. If I conceal anything, the Godly Monarchs can kill me directly. He swore to the Godly Monarchs in advance. Now, facing the extremely furious Sword God King and Sky Godly Monarch, he had to say in advance that if he were to be killed out of anger, there was nothing he could do. Speak. Don't worry. No one can break the rules, Shen Tianzi said to him. He also had the strength to say that, yes, in this calamity, the sea monsters are too powerful. At the end of the defense, tens of thousands of God Lord rank 8 sea monsters suddenly appeared at the bottom of the sea. We have no way to activate the defensive array formation that Lord Shen Tianzi God King set up. Activate the defensive array formation. It can withstand for more than a day. We have to find help within this one day. Commander Duan of Sky City said that he has a way. The Supreme Commander recounted everything that had happened without any favoritism. Grandpa, This kid can testify that it's true. Commander Xian said immediately after he finished speaking. Does that mean that they have provoked the Dragon King? They are simply courting death. Xian Tianzi said indifferently. Xian Tianzi, the experts of the city in the sky and the sword domain are also thinking for the sake of the entire natural selection continent. They are not courting death. The sword god king retorted angrily when he heard Xian Tianzi's word. That's right. Now, the Dragon King is also the hero of the entire Tianzi continent. Haha, he can be a hero, but the experts of the city in the sky can't die in vain. Almost all the God Lord level experts in the entire Sky City have died. Ha ha ha, such a feud is irreconcilable. It's either him or me. The Sky God King roared maniacally. Many experts in the 18 cities of Sky City were his descendants. Now, Sky City was completely crippled. It was even worse than the sword domain. There were many experts below the Godlord rank 8 in the sword domain, and Sky City was completely gone. In the future, he would be the only one holding up the Sky City in the Tianzi continent. It would only exist in name. The force he had established was almost destroyed. Why wasn't he crazy? All the top experts in my sword domain have been killed. Only blood can be repaid. The sword god king held the divine sword in his hand tightly. His face was ghastly. Xian Tianzi frowned slightly when he saw the violent expressions of the two. The Dragon King has already returned to his divine kingdom. His divine kingdom is not in the Xian heaven domain. Besides, he said that he will be back in a few days. We from the Xian heaven domain will not be involved in this matter, Xian Tianzi said indifferently. It could be considered as a declaration of his position. If Wang Xian had not said that earlier, he would definitely stand on Wang Xian's side. However, since he had said it, it meant that he was confident. For someone to be able to raise his combat strength from level 2 Eternal Celestial Master to Immortal Celestial King in just a few months' time, he did not think that Sword God King and Sky Celestial King could do anything to Wang Xian. Furthermore, if Wang Xian wanted to escape, they only had a 10% chance of killing him. It was basically impossible. Alright. When Sword God King and Sky Celestial King heard Xian Tianzi's words, they nodded solemnly. As long as Xian Tianzi did not interfere, they would have a chance to kill that Dragon King. Let's go. Sword God King swept his gaze over his subordinates and left with a sullen face. Although the calamity had ended, it was not something worth being happy about. Instead, it was a calamity that was even more severe than the calamity. Sky God King did not say a word and left immediately. Because there were no more subordinates around him, only a bunch of dead fish and shrimps. Sky City was about to fall. However, at this moment, the main character, Wang Xian, had returned to the Dragon Palace in the Endless Starfield. This was the first time he had returned after leaving for over 3 months. Over 3 months, his strength and the Dragon Palace's strength had received a crazy increase. Ao Chitian, Ao Qi, Ao Xingmu, Ao Yarrow, Mu Zesen, and a strange demon have increased their combat strength to the Immortal King level. Including myself, there are a total of 7 of them. Wang Xian stood in the dragon transformation pool and looked at the 7 figures in the middle. A smile appeared on his face. With the 7 immortal kings and the 4 godly kings of the entire Tianzi continent working together, the Dragon Palace would be able to contend against them. If you want to kill me, why wouldn't I want to kill you as well? He. Wang Xian said with a smile on his face. If they returned to the resplendent land and Tianzi continent again, the Dragon Palace would no longer be a nobody. I only need 2 days. He looked at the dragon transformation pool and said softly. He looked at the group of girls beside him and squinted his eyes. Let's go, let's have a good rest these 2 days, ha ha ha. He laughed heartily, extremely carefree. 2405-2405 Memorial. Battle. 1. Dragon King, I will kill you. Dragon King, I will kill you. Angry roars reverberated in the sky and the ocean. Xian Tianzi and John Fa Mo Hen, who were standing in the depths of the ocean, were slightly stunned. What? What's going on? Why are those 2 guys so angry? Battle tactic. Mo Hen looked in the direction of the wall of protection with a stunned expression on his face. Let's go and take a look. Xian Tianzi raised his eyebrows. He suddenly recalled what Wang Xian said before he left. His heart skipped a beat and he immediately flew towards the direction of the wall of protection. Battle tactic Mo Hen also followed closely behind curiously. The speed of the two of them was very fast. When they had just flown over, they saw two figures on the wall of protection looking in their direction with murderous looks on their faces. What about the Dragon King? The Sword God King looked at the two of them with a cold face and asked with blood-red eyes. Who are you asking? Be more polite. Seeing the Sword God King's power, Mo Hen curled his lips and said directly, What about the Dragon King? However, to Mo Hen's surprise, the Sword God King asked angrily again, not giving him any face at all. What happened? Xian Tianzi heard his words and frowned. He gestured to Mo Hen not to be impulsive and asked him calmly. He actually killed all the experts above the 8th level of the Eternal Master level in our sword domain. He killed them all. All the experts that our sword domain has accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years have been killed. It's hard for me, the Sword God King, not to kill that Dragon King for this revenge. The Sword God King's tone softened when he heard Xian Tianzi's words. However, his eyes were still bloodshot. Almost all the God Lord experts of my Sky City have been killed. At this moment, the Sky God King flew over. His body was filled with a dense murderous aura. Dragon King, why did you kill the experts of Sky City and the Sword Domain? Xian Tianzi swept a glance at the two of them. He looked down and asked the experts below indifferently. Lord Godly Monarch. The Supreme Commander cupped his hands respectfully and swept his gaze across the Godly Monarchs in reverence. Lord Godly Monarch, I will not be biased or conceal anything from you. If I conceal anything, the Godly Monarchs can kill me directly. He swore to the Godly Monarchs in advance. Now, facing the extremely furious Sword God King and Sky Godly Monarch, he had to say in advance that if he were to be killed out of anger, there was nothing he could do. Speak. Don't worry. No one can break the rules, Xian Tianzi said to him. He also had the strength to say that, yes. In this calamity, the sea monsters are too powerful. At the end of the defense, tens of thousands of God Lord rank 8 sea monsters suddenly appeared at the bottom of the sea. We have no way to activate the defensive array formation that Lord Xian Tianzi God King set up. Activate the defensive array formation. It can withstand for more than a day. We have to find help within this one day. Commander Duan of Sky City said that he has a way. The Supreme Commander recounted everything that had happened without any favoritism. Grandpa, this kid can testify that it's true. Commander Xian said immediately after he finished speaking. Does that mean that they have provoked the Dragon King? They are simply courting death. Xian Tianzi said indifferently. Xian Tianzi, the experts of the city in the sky and the sword domain are also thinking for the sake of the entire natural selection continent. They are not courting death. The Sword God King retorted angrily when he heard Xian Tianzi's word. That's right. Now, the Dragon King is also the hero of the entire Tianzi continent. Haha, he can be a hero, but the experts of the city in the sky can't die in vain. Almost all the God Lord level experts in the entire Sky City have died. Ha ha ha, such a feud is irreconcilable. It's either him or me. The Sky God King roared maniacally. Many experts in the 18 cities of Sky City were his descendants. Now, Sky City was completely crippled. It was even worse than the Sword Domain. There were many experts below the Godlord rank 8 in the Sword Domain, and Sky City was completely gone. In the future, he would be the only one holding up the Sky City in the Tianzi continent. It would only exist in name. The force he had established was almost destroyed. Why wasn't he crazy? All the top experts in my sword domain have been killed. Only blood can be repaid. The Sword God King held the divine sword in his hand tightly. His face was ghastly. Xian Tianzi frowned slightly when he saw the violent expressions of the two. The Dragon King has already returned to his divine kingdom. His divine kingdom is not in the Xian heaven domain. Besides, he said that he will be back in a few days. We from the Xian heaven domain will not be involved in this matter, Xian Tianzi said indifferently. It could be considered as a declaration of his position. If Wang Xian had not said that earlier, He would definitely stand on Wang Xian's side. However, since he had said it, it meant that he was confident. For someone to be able to raise his combat strength from level 2 Eternal Celestial Master to Immortal Celestial King in just a few months' time, he did not think that Sword God King and Sky Celestial King could do anything to Wang Xian. Furthermore, if Wang Xian wanted to escape, they only had a 10% chance of killing him. It was basically impossible. Alright. When Sword God King and Sky Celestial King heard Shen Tianzi's words, they nodded solemnly. As long as Shen Tianzi did not interfere, they would have a chance to kill that Dragon King. Let's go. Sword God King swept his gaze over his subordinates and left with a sullen face. Although the calamity had ended, it was not something worth being happy about. Instead, it was a calamity that was even more severe than the calamity. Sky God King did not say a word and left immediately. Because there were no more subordinates around him, only a bunch of dead fish and shrimps. Sky City was about to fall. However, at this moment, the main character, Wang Xian, had returned to the Dragon Palace in the Endless Starfield. This was the first time he had returned after leaving for over 3 months. Over 3 months, his strength and the Dragon Palace's strength had received a crazy increase. Ao Chitian, Ao Qi, Ao Xingmu, Ao Yarrow, Mu Zesen, and a strange demon have increased their combat strength to the Immortal King level. Including myself, there are a total of 7 of them. Wang Xian stood in the dragon transformation pool and looked at the 7 figures in the middle. A smile appeared on his face. With the 7 immortal kings and the 4 godly kings of the entire Tianzi continent working together, the Dragon Palace would be able to contend against them. If you want to kill me, why wouldn't I want to kill you as well? He. Wang Xian said with a smile on his face. If they returned to the resplendent land and Tianzi continent again, the Dragon Palace would no longer be a nobody. I only need 2 days. He looked at the dragon transformation pool and said softly. He looked at the group of girls beside him and squinted his eyes. Let's go, let's have a good rest these 2 days, ha ha ha. He laughed heartily, extremely carefree. Chapter 2406. 2406-2406 Memorial. War. 2. The catastrophe has ended. More than 100 million soldiers of the Tianzi continent have died in battle. Every soldier is a hero of the entire Tianzi continent. They are all heroes of humanity. On the 4th day of victory, the Tianzi continent will hold a memorial ceremony for the entire continent. We will mourn for our brothers and sisters who have died in battle. We will hold a memorial ceremony for our heroes. On the Tianzi continent, after the catastrophe had ended, joy struck everyone. At this time, the AI announced something. In 4 days, the entire continent would mourn, paying respects to their dead brothers and sisters. It would be broadcasted live. At that time, a group of god kings would also appear, sending off the dead warriors. 4 days later, the memorial was a huge event for Tianzi continent. The entire natural selection continent was talking about this calamity war. General Wang, who had just reached the Undying Emperor realm, was called Dragon King by his subordinate. And now, he was also called Dragon King by the Tianzi continent. The Invincible Dragon King appeared out of nowhere and quickly settled this catastrophe. At the same time, Sky City, which had almost all the God Lord realm warriors killed by the Dragon King, all the top warriors of the Sword Domain were also discussed by many people. Everyone on the Guardian Wall was also very familiar with this situation. While everyone thought that they were courting death, they also felt some sympathy. After all, the experts of the Sword Realm and Sky City were also thinking for the sake of the entire Tianzi continent. Although they had been killed by the Dragon King, it could not be denied that the other party was not a hero. They had also sacrificed a lot in order to fend off the powerful sea monsters. In the AI, the people from the city in the sky and the Sword Domain were the most furious. They said that the Dragon King was too cruel. Everything was for the humans. Why didn't they give them a chance? Why did they have to kill all of them? There were all kinds of voices in the AI. There were even many experts from the city in the sky and the Sword Domain who hoped that their godly king could kill the Dragon King as soon as possible. The calamity had won, but many people guessed that there might be internal strife. Back then, the Sky Godly Monarch and Sword Godly Monarch had roared that they wanted to kill the Dragon King. However, Many people did not know that this was an internal strife because the Dragon King did not belong to their heavenly lake continent. Of course, many people still believed that the Dragon King was the hero of the entire heavenly lake continent. The end of the calamity this time was all thanks to the Dragon King. The artificial intelligence system was abuzz with discussion. At this moment, the Sky God King and the Sword God King were trembling in anger. This was especially so for the Sky God King. In a palace located at the highest altitude of 300,000 meters, the Sky God King was leaning on his throne. In the middle of the hall in front of him, there was an old man who was prostrating himself. Lord God King, currently, we only have over 100 Divine Lord-level experts in Sky City. Among them, the strongest one is an Eternal Divine Lord at level 7. The groveling old man reported to the Sky God King while trembling. In this catastrophe, there were 3,000 to 4,000 God-level masters who died at the sea monster's place. However, there were 5,000 to 6,000 who died at the hands of Wang Xian. There were only more than 100 God-level masters in Sky City who were under the control of Sky City. In other words, there were only more than 100 God-level masters under the control of the Sky God level. The strongest God Lord was at the 7th rank. It could be said to be extremely miserable. There was a time when the Sky City had more than 10,000 God Lord experts under its jurisdiction. Retreat. The Sky God Lord said to the old man emotionlessly. It's Lord God King. The old man nodded and hurriedly retreated. Wang. Just as the old man left, a Sword God King, whose entire body was like a sharp sword, floated in the air above the hall and looked at the Sky God Lord from afar. Your Sky City is really miserable, he said indifferently. Peng. Sword God King, how are you guys any better? The Sky God King slammed heavily on the divine seat beside him and growled in a low voice. That Dragon King has combat strength on the same level as us and he doesn't have a fixed territory. How are we going to take revenge for this? Sword God King did not continue to mock. The loss of the sword domain was not something that could be recovered in tens of thousands of years. No matter the price, I will kill him. Sky God Emperor's eyes were bloodshot as he spoke. His energy could not help but tremble. With him trying to escape, it will be too hard for the two of us to kill him. Even if we can get our hands on the encirclement to trap the undying God Emperor and he escapes, it will be hard for us to kill him. Sword God Emperor said with an ugly expression. There's naturally no way for the two of us to do anything. Although he has just stepped into the undying godly monarch realm, with the strength of a godly monarch, it would be very difficult to kill him. Sky God Emperor suddenly smiled sinisterly. Oh! Sky God Emperor, what do you mean? Sword God Emperor raised his eyebrows slightly. The Heaven Beast Corporation contacted me just now and asked me why the deal that we had agreed on suddenly stopped. I told them to continue, but the target has changed. Sky God King said with a grim expression. What you mean is, the Heaven Beast Corporation sent people to assist us. But even though the Heaven Beast Corporation is powerful, they wouldn't provoke a God King for no reason, right? Sword God Emperor revealed a puzzled expression. You've underestimated the allure of that array formation. Furthermore, we only need them to send 2 godly monarchs to assist us. We need them to take out the imprisonment ring that imprisons immortal godly monarchs. They are currently considering it, but they will eventually agree. Sky God Emperor smiled coldly. As long as we have 2 godly monarchs to assist us and use the imprisonment ring to imprison them and seal the surroundings, would we not be able to kill a brat who has just broken through to the godly monarch realm? As he spoke, his gaze turned to Sword God King. As long as we can get our hands on that precious confinement ring and prepare for a 4-on-1 situation, we have a 90% chance of killing him. Sword God King's eyes flickered as he slowly raised his head. Of course, if the Heaven Beast Corporation can send 2 level 2 and 3 immortal godly monarchs over, it will be even easier. Ha 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 ha, there's no need. I want to kill him myself. I want to pull out his tendons and pull out his bones. I want to make him suffer. I'm not willing to let him die so easily. Sky God King laughed maniacally. His laughter was a little crazy. He strongly requested the Heavenly Beast Corporation to send a stronger God King over. The other party might really agree for the array formation. However, he did not need to. He wanted to do it himself. The Dragon King had destroyed his Sky City, so he wanted to destroy the Dragon King as well. He wanted to make the Dragon King extremely regretful and extremely painful. To deal with a guy who had just advanced to godly monarchs, he had a 99% chance of killing the other party without escaping in a one-on-one situation, not to mention the joint attack of 4 people. Alright, I'll let him experience my sword. Sword God Emperor's eyes gleamed coldly. He was stronger than Sky God Emperor. He was even more confident that he could kill him. The two of them had been in the Undying Emperor realm for hundreds of thousands of years. Even if they hadn't reached level 2, their strength wasn't something a God Emperor who had just become a God Emperor could compare to. Chapter 2407. 2407-2407 Memorial. War. 3. Boom. 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 Boundless Galaxy. In the Boundless Sea Dragon Palace, waves of terrifying energy were transmitted from the Dragon Transformation Pool. At this moment, 6 figures were hovering above the Dragon Transformation Pool. Terrifying laws were condensed on top of it. The 6 figures were extremely vast. Wang Xian stood at the edge of the Dragon Transformation Pool and looked at the figures of the 6 members of the Dragon Palace with a smile on his face. Below the 6 figures were the powerhouses of the Dragon Palace who were also exuding a strong aura. There were 20 peak stage Master Level Combat Strength members, 100 Master Level 9 Combat Strength members, and 500 Master Level 8 Combat Strength member. There were even more Master Level 7 and Level 6 Combat Strength members behind them. After the catastrophe, the strength of the Dragon Palace had received a huge boost. Greetings, Dragon King. The members of the Dragon Palace looked at Wang Xian and flew over respectfully. They greeted him loudly. Very good. Wang Xian looked at them with a satisfied expression on his face. With the members of the Dragon Palace, he would be able to build a Dragon Palace in the underground sea. By then, the combat strength of the 7 immortal godly monarchs of the Dragon Palace would be able to occupy an entire ocean. Even if they were to face the undying godly monarch sea monsters in the underground sea, there was nothing to be afraid of. There were more than a dozen undying godly monarch sea monsters in the underground sea, and there were 7 in the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian could definitely lead his subordinates to kill those undying godly monarch sea monsters. As long as he killed them, the Dragon Palace would become stronger and stronger. Finally, they would unify the entire underground sea. Once they unified the underground sea, the Dragon Palace would truly enter the greater world and compete with the powerhouses of billions of planets. Only when the Dragon Palace was established in the underground sea would the Dragon Palace truly have a foothold. Xiao Xian, are we going back now? Guan Shuqing and the rest stood at the side. When they saw such a powerful Dragon Palace, they smiled and asked him, "Yes, we are going back now. When we return, we will establish the Dragon Palace. When that happens, the Dragon Palace will be transferred to that resplendent world." Wang Xian nodded at them. Once the Dragon Palace was transferred over, the group of girls would also be transferred over. This way, they would only be able to see each other once every few months. Okay, be careful then. The group of girls also understood this logic and nodded at him. Wang Xian smiled and looked at Ao Xingmu, Ao Qitian, and the rest. Swoosh. He moved and charged out of the boundless sea. The 6 combat strength members of the godly monarch of the Dragon Palace moved and immediately transformed into human form to follow closely behind Wang Xian. Boom. 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 They flew towards the entrance of the energy tide at a terrifying speed. Along the way, everyone felt the terrifying speed and their faces were filled with astonishment. A Master God level powerhouse had such a terrifying speed. Let's go. After entering the energy tide, Wang Xian entered the long black hole directly. With his current speed, it was much easier for him to pass through this black hole. In just an hour, they had passed through the black hole and arrived at the Emperor's Perish battlefield. The Emperor's Perish battlefield was the battlefield where the god-level Emperor of Tian Jingzi had fallen. The entire battlefield was filled with all kinds of chaotic energy. Even with Wang Xian's current strength, it was extremely dangerous here. This was the place where a celestial emperor and more than 100,000 immortal godly monarchs had fallen. More than 100,000 celestial monarchs. Even now, Wang Xian still found it hard to imagine. Little friend Wang Xian, I really didn't expect you to be able to raise your strength to such a level in such a short period of time. The divine dragon inheritance is really heaven-defying. At this moment, the voice of the celestial emperor Tian Zhanzi rang out in Wang Xian's mind. He, don't worry, Senior Tian Zhanzi. It won't be long before I can fight against the celestial emperor. When the time comes, I will find a chance to resurrect you. Wang Xian said with a smile. You have the combat strength of an immortal celestial king. Now, you can try to make a witch weapon. Tian Zhanzi suddenly said. Make a weapon? Wang Xian asked with slight doubt. It's a wizard weapon. A wizard weapon is a powerful weapon that is made by combining a divine weapon. It's much more powerful than a divine weapon. I don't know much about how to make a wizard weapon, so I'm not very proficient in it. However, according to the conditions of making a wizard weapon, you must first use a divine weapon to let the weapon spirit control the formation and set up a formation on the divine weapon. The weapon spirit will activate the formation to fight the enemy. It's said that the weapon spirit of a great wizard can set up a formation on a weapon that is extremely heaven-defying. The 5 elements grindstone in your hand can be easily made into a magic weapon. It can help you to control some formations. Little friend Wang Xian, you can give it a try. The Heaven Formation Master said to Wang Xian. He was extremely envious of Wang Xian's 5 elements grindstone formation. It was the top-notch origin weapon in the universe. If the 5 weapon spirits were to teach them about formations, it would be extremely powerful. In the later stages, he could easily fight against an expert of the same level as Wang Xian with just one 5 elements grindstone. I can give it a try. The speed of my improvement is too fast. The 5 elements grindstone can't keep up with the speed. As Wang Xian spoke, he suddenly had a thought. Senior Tian Zhanzi, do you think I can let my clones replace the artifact spirits of the 5 elements grindstone? Wang Xian had 8 clones now. The only thing missing was the earth attribute of the 9 attribute. The clones of the wind and thunder attributes were integrated into the inceptive sage wings. Currently, 6 of them were cultivating in the Dragon Palace. However, entering the 5 elements millstone was not a big problem. Allowing the clones to enter the 5 elements millstone to control and set up the formation could make the 5 elements millstone even more powerful. Moreover, there was another point. Due to the rapid improvement during this period of time, Wang Xian did not have the time to study the formation. Instead, he allowed the clones to start comprehending and learning. Once his doppelganger understood it, he would be able to grasp it. This way, the 5 elements grinding witch weapon will become stronger. There's no need for your doppelganger to fuse with it. All you need to do is guide the spirit of the weapon. Your lack of earth attribute doppelganger is also a flaw. It will be much easier to guide it. Tian Zhanzi said immediately. That's good. However, the strength of the few doppelganger and the 5 elements grinding witch weapon are still a little weak. If they were to set up an array formation that could threaten the immortal king level, it would take them more than 10 days. Wang Xian said. As they were his clones, they could set up a formation that could threaten the immortal king level. However, the speed of setting up the formation was a little impressive. Setting up a formation that could threaten the immortal king level in less than 10 days was useless. This could only allow them to set up the formation in advance. During the battle, they could also release 5 formations that could threaten the immortal king level 1. It was very impressive. Wang Xian pondered for a moment and immediately took out the 5 elements millstone. He summoned 5 clones over. The combat strength of the 5 clones was only level 9 of the eternal godly monarch. If they worked together to set up the formation, coupled with the power of the 5 elements millstone itself, they could deal with a peak stage godly monarch on their own. Not bad. If Wang Xian set up the formation on top, it could threaten the godly monarch. After setting up a black hole space-disturbing formation, Wang Xian did not set it up again because he did not have control over many formations either. I'm here. I wonder if the people from the city in the sky and the sword domain will find trouble with me when I return this time. Hee. After flying for 3 hours, the Tianzi continent appeared in his line of sight. He looked at the gigantic continent with a smile on his face. This time, It was completely different from the first time he came to this world. Chapter 2408. 2408 2408 Memorial. Battle. 4. Aya, Bing Bing. Do you think Teacher Wang will still be our teacher in the future? That's right, Bing Bing. Teacher Wang is the Dragon King. Teacher Wang has actually become the 5th undying God King of our Tianzi continent. Who would have thought that we are actually the students of the Dragon King? Xian Tian Academy Freshman Class 1. With the outbreak of the calamity, the Dragon King becoming an undying God King was a huge shock to the Freshman Class 1. Their teacher actually became the 5th undying emperor of the Tianzi continent. They would never even dream of it. The group of girls asked Yu Bingbing, Huang Jiao and the others. After all, from their point of view, Yu Bingbing, Huang Jiao, Sichu Yang Xiaolan and the others were close to their teacher. They were half disciples. We don't know either. Teacher becoming an undying emperor. He shouldn't be coming. Yu Bingbing and the rest shook their heads. There was both pride and disappointment on their faces. A godly king would continue to teach them? It was obviously impossible. Buzz. However, at this moment, a group of figures suddenly appeared beside them. Ah! When the group of girls saw the figure that suddenly appeared and Wang Xian who was in the middle, everyone was slightly stunned. Teacher Wang. The group of girls hurriedly shouted at Wang Xian. Yes. Wang Xian nodded at them. His gaze swept across the group of girls and a smile appeared on his face. This group of people could be considered as his students, but he was clearly not a qualified teacher. After this, it was unlikely that he would come here to teach them for a period of time every month. I'll stay here for 2 days. If there's anything you don't know, come and ask me. I'll make arrangements for the future. Wang Xian said to them and walked into the room. The group of girls looked at each other when they saw Wang Xian walking into the room after saying that. Looks like Teacher Wang won't be teaching us in the future. Don't think about it. Teacher Wang is the godly king who is high up in the sky. It's already a gift from the heavens that we can become the students of the godly king. Did teacher just come back from outside? Will he go to the continent to pay respects to teacher tomorrow? All the girls said with some disappointment and doubt. However, they did not dare to enter and disturb him. After all, he was the immortal godly king, one of the strongest people on the continent. The hearts of the girls were still filled with respect. My young friend Wang Xian. However, not long after Wang Xian sat down, a voice rang in his ear. Senior Xian Tianzi. Wang Xian looked at the figure that was slowly gathering in front of him and revealed a smile. Wang Xian, you're back so soon. Are you preparing this time? Xian Tianzi looked at Wang Xian with a smile and said, I'm preparing to participate in the memorial ceremony tomorrow. Also, Senior Xian Tianzi, I'm preparing to establish a faction in the underground sea. I'll announce it when the time comes. Wang Xian spoke directly to Xian Tianzi. He had already seen some news from the AI earlier and knew about the furious roars of the 2 godly monarchs. He did not take it to heart. Xian Tianzi was slightly stunned. He never expected Wang Xian to make such a move. Participate in the memorial ceremony? Establish a faction? Little friend Wang Xian, you have to be prepared. The godly monarch of the sky, sword godly monarch, hates you to the bone. Xian Tianzi said to Wang Xian with a serious expression. The 2 godly monarchs were holding a grudge. Even if it was difficult to kill Wang Xian, it was still a powerful threat. Especially when Wang Xian dared to establish a force, he was almost certain that the godly monarchs of the sky and sword would definitely attack him. If he were to establish a force at this time, 90% of it would be destroyed by the 2 godly monarch. Senior Xian Tianzi, don't worry. Since I dare to establish a faction, I'm not afraid of the sky and sword godly monarchs. I'll be attending the memorial ceremony tomorrow. Please spread the news out so that the sky and sword godly monarchs can prepare themselves. Wang Xian said to Xian Tianzi with a smile on his face. Oh! Xian Tianzi was slightly stunned. He looked at Wang Xian in a daze and asked, Are you confident? The celestial king of the sky and the godly king of the sword are from the Tianzi continent after all. I might not be able to help you when the time comes. I would like to thank Senior Xian Tianzi for his kindness. I will make preparations. I hope they won't disappoint me, Wang Xian said to him confidently. All right then. Since you are confident, I won't say anything. Your potential and talent are not something I can compare to. Be prepared for everything. Xian Tianzi took a deep look at Wang Xian and said, I will. Wang Xian nodded his head as well. Then, I shall not disturb little friend Wang Xian. I will congratulate you personally when your faction is completed. A smile appeared on Xian Tianzi's face as he vanished instantly. Godly King of the Sky and Godly King of the Sword, I hope you won't disappoint me, Wang Xian mumbled as he watched the two of them leave. Both of them did not know the strength of his dragon palace. Since the other party was here to attack him, he could take care of them. If the strength of the dragon palace was exposed, he was confident that he could destroy one of them. However, the other party would definitely run away. The other party was afraid that he would run away, but he was also afraid that the other party would run away. The news of Wang Xian's arrival did not attract anyone's attention. However, 2 hours later, the AI sent out a notification and message. Tomorrow, the 4 godly monarchs and the Dragon King would personally attend the memorial service for the heroes of the humans of the Tianzi continent. The moment this news was released, it caused quite a stir. What? It's not surprising that the 4 godly monarchs are here. However, if the Dragon King is here, wouldn't a battle between the godly monarchs break out? That's right. Didn't they say that the Dragon King has left the Tianzi continent? Why is he suddenly announcing that he will attend the memorial service tomorrow? Will the extremely angry Sky God King and Sword God King let the Dragon King off? Will there be a battle? Many people on the AI were discussing worriedly. It was not impossible to have a battle between the God Kings during the memorial ceremony. The God King was high and mighty, but no matter what the occasion was, even if there was a battle, who would dare to say anything? That Dragon King still dares to appear. As long as he dares to appear, we, the God King, will definitely kill him. After killing the Dragon King, my grandfather was killed by him. Tomorrow, we will use the Dragon King's life as a sacrifice. Some people from the city in the sky and the sword domain were venting their frustrations as they posted messages on their AI. Clearly, many people from the sword domain and city in the sky were filled with hatred towards the Dragon King. I never expected this. I really never expected this. At this moment, in the sword tomb of the sword domain, a sky-reaching sword beam instantly shot into the sky, flying towards the city in the sky. Sky God King, that Dragon King is extremely arrogant. He actually dares to participate in the memorial ceremony tomorrow. Since that's the case, let's use his blood as a memorial. Sword God King directly charged into the highest palace in Sky City as his voice sounded. He is indeed a little arrogant. He is very confident that the two of us will not be able to stop him. A towering figure appeared in the divine seat in the hall. Let's wait here for a few hours. Chapter 2409. 2409-2409 Memorial. Battle. 5. In the highest palace of Sky City, Sky God King was leaning on his throne while Sword God King was sitting cross-legged on a 3-meter-long giant sword. The two of them didn't say anything. They were waiting for the experts of the Heaven Beast Corporation to arrive. They knew that it was easy for them to defeat the Dragon King, but it was very difficult to kill him. Even with the confinement circle around him, it would still be hard to keep him alive. Reaching the Undying Emperor realm, he could hide his undying country within the space crack. His speed and life force had reached a terrifying level. Even if he couldn't return to his undying country, just with his speed and life force, it would be hard for the two of them to keep the Dragon King alive. However, if the 4 of them attacked him together, that wasn't necessarily the case. They could instantly seal off the surroundings. Escape. Where to? Up and down? That was obviously impossible. As long as they spent a certain amount of time, they would definitely be able to catch up and kill him. Hence, now that they could kill the Dragon King, they could only wait. Time slowly passed. The two of them weren't anxious at all. Buzz. 4 hours later, the Sky Celestial King who was leaning on the divine seat suddenly opened his eyes. He looked outside and could not help but smile. Ha ha ha, everyone from the Heaven Beast Corporation, welcome. A carefree voice came out of the Sky Celestial King's mouth. He immediately stood up and flew forward. Sky Celestial King, Sword Celestial King, right. At the entrance of the hall, 3 figures slowly walked in. 2 old men and a middle-aged man looked at Sky Celestial King and Sword Celestial King in the hall and asked indifferently, "That's right. Oh, the 3 of you are all Celestial Kings?" Sky Celestial King swept his gaze across the 3 people and was slightly taken aback before he said, "There are only 2 of you. We were afraid that you were too weak to keep the other party, so we sent an additional person," the leading elder said indifferently, not giving them any face. "One of you doesn't have to make a move tomorrow." Sword God King, who was sitting cross-legged on the huge sword, heard their words. A sword light flashed in his eyes as he said coldly. The surrounding void seemed to be filled with sharp swords floating in the air. "Hey! Then maybe we really only need 2 people to make a move tomorrow." The old man in the lead looked at Sword God King with a hint of surprise on his face. Clearly, he was also very surprised by Sword God King's strength. He, 3 of you from the Heaven Beast Corporation will be even more foolproof. Tomorrow, all you have to do is stop them from escaping. Leave the rest to us. Sky God King smiled and said loudly, "Don't worry. It's impossible to escape from us." The middle-aged man beside him said confidently, "This is a confinement ring. Don't forget your conditions. You will have to pay a price for deceiving our Heaven Beast Corporation." The leading elder threw a confinement ring to Sword Celestial King and said indifferently, "Of course." Sword Celestial King caught it. "Listen to our orders and cooperate with US tomorrow." "Okay." The 3 of them nodded and began to discuss some details. Time passed very quickly. From the outbreak of the catastrophe to the end, it was a rebirth for everyone in the Heavenly Lake continent. The more than 100 million soldiers who died in battle were the heroes of the entire Heavenly Lake continent. It was because of their deaths that the Heavenly Lake continent was now in perfect condition. Everyone was filled with admiration for the heroes. On the day of the memorial service, the entire continent had been preparing for the memorial service. It was located in the center of the continent, where the federal government was located. There was a huge square with white flowers on it. At the very front was a huge tombstone. There were 3 tombstones that were tens of thousands of meters tall, and the first 2 were filled with countless names. Similarly, on that brand new tombstone, there were also many names recorded. There were more than 100 million of them. These were all soldiers who had died in battle. These were the tombstones of heroes. The tombstones of heroes. Early in the morning, countless soldiers had lined up neatly to come to the memorial square. At the entrance, the 4 major factions and countless people from the Federation were dressed neatly. They walked into the square. The entire square was slightly solemn, with silent music playing around it. Fighter jets hovered in the sky as if they were sending them off. The number of people participating in this memorial ceremony had reached around 50 million. The rest of the people were watching the live broadcast through the AI. The atmosphere was slightly solemn. "Grandpa, the Dragon King is also here today. There won't be any big trouble, right?" In the command room at the very front, a middle-aged man said to the Supreme Commander with a frown, "We can't interfere in this either. However, with Senior Shen Tianzi here, ordinary people won't be involved." The Supreme Commander frowned slightly and shook his head helplessly. They had no way of handling this matter. Everyone was a hero of the Heavenly Lake continent. The Dragon King's appearance had averted this calamity. However, the Sky and Sword godly monarchs also contributed greatly. They had also guarded the Heavenly Lake continent for hundreds of thousands of years. They could not interfere in the feud between the 3 godly monarchs. Even in such a situation, it was not appropriate for Shen Tianzi to interfere. "I really don't know if the appearance of the Dragon King is a good thing or a bad thing." The middle-aged man sighed silently. "It's a good thing. At the very least, we have survived the calamity." The Supreme Commander looked at his grandson and patted him on the shoulder as he walked out. He was going to preside over today's memorial. Stepping on the road paved with white flowers, his gaze swept his surroundings. The godly monarchs had yet to arrive. Perhaps they would only appear in the end. He slowly walked forward with his subordinates following behind him. The Continental Memorial Ceremony could be considered to have begun. Under this kind of atmosphere, the 50 million people who came to the memorial ceremony did not speak. After all, under this kind of atmosphere, they could not speak either. The Supreme Commander walked forward and began to give a speech, giving a speech for the heroes. The speech was not short. It lasted for a full half an hour. Everyone was listening attentively. On the tombstone of the heroes, the names began to shine from top to bottom. The memorial ceremony was going on. The 5 god kings have arrived. They are the pillars of humanity in the Tianzi continent for hundreds of thousands of years. They are the saviors of humanity and our reliance. In this tribute, our godly monarchs will be giving their tribute. We pay our respects to the 5 godly monarchs. Half an hour later, the highest commander looked around and said as he slowly half-kneeled on the ground, "We pay our respects to the godly monarchs." The rest of the people also half-kneeled on the ground respectfully and shouted in unison, "Boom! Boom! Boom!" The next moment, 5 figures came from different directions. In the sky, the godly king of the sky and the godly king of swords looked at Wang Xian with sparkling eyes. Wang Xian looked at them with a smile on his face as well. It had begun. Chapter 2410. 2410-2410 Slaying the God King, the founding of the Dragon Palace. We humans have been fighting against the sea monsters for millions of years. Countless predecessors have died in battle, and countless successors have come one after another. All the soldiers who have died in battle are fighting for our Tianzi continent, for a better home. Today, I hope that all the humans of Tianzi continent will remember the home that our predecessors protected with their lives, remember their blood, their sacrifices, and their fearlessness. Work hard and become stronger. One day, we humans of Tianzi continent will be able to pacify the entire underground sea and wipe out all the sea monsters. For the soldiers who have died in battle, this is a salute. In the memorial grounds, Wang Xian and the 5 godly monarchs flew over. Xian Tianzi's gaze swept across everyone in front of him and spoke first. As the strongest existence in the entire Tianzi continent, Xian Tianzi's reputation and dignity was the best among all the godly monarch. Especially Xian Tianzi's array formation, it was the defense line of the entire Tianzi continent. Everyone followed and saluted. All the humans of the Tianzi continent should fight. The blood that is flowing now is to reduce the blood of future generations. In the future, everyone, cultivate, cultivate, fight, fight. Only when the underground sea has calmed down can we stop our blood flow. I hope that in our generation, we can remove the hidden dangers of the Tianzi continent. Blood, let us flow. After Xian Tianzi finished his sentence, Mo Hen took a step forward and roared with a cold face, "Fight!" In an instant, everyone was ignited by Mo Hen's fighting spirit. They clenched their fists and roared angrily. If the underground sea was not pacified, the humans would shed another day's blood. As long as they pacified the underground sea, their descendants would not continue to shed blood. This was almost the wish of all the parents in the entire continent. He. Wang Xian looked at the humans of the Tianzi continent who were full of fighting spirit. A smile appeared on his face. He looked at the Celestial King of the Sky and the Celestial King of Swords. Seeing that they did not want to say anything, he took 2 steps forward indifferently. Dragon King, the Dragon King is about to speak. What would the Dragon King say? When everyone saw Wang Xian taking a few steps forward, their eyes flickered slightly. The higher-ups of the Federation looked over as well. Then, they looked worriedly at the godly monarch of the sky and the godly monarch of the sword. Would there be any accidents during today's memorial ceremony because of these 2 godly monarchs? In front of the AI, everyone also saw Wang Xian walking out. Some of them were filled with respect, some were filled with complicated feelings, and some were filled with hatred. My name is Wang Xian. You can call me the Dragon King. The end of this calamity is mainly due to my breakthrough. I have 2 things to announce with this memorial ceremony. Firstly, I have decided to establish a force in the underground sea. I will name it the Dragon Palace and guard a region. Secondly, this memorial ceremony should be the last one. Before long, The underground sea will be pacified and swept away by the Dragon Palace. Wang Xian's gaze swept forward. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. A strong sense of confidence and dominance appeared on his face. A faint sense of authority rose from within his body. Such strong confidence. The Dragon Palace is able to pacify the underground sea. Is that possible? When everyone heard Wang Xian's words, a look of astonishment appeared on their faces. Establishing a force in the underground sea, pacifying the entire underground sea. There was no godly king in the Tianzi continent who had such great confidence. He, Dragon King, you killed countless experts from the city in the sky and the sword domain just to pave the way for the establishment of your Dragon Palace. At this moment, just as Wang Xian finished his sentence, a cold voice came from the side. Pave the way. Our Dragon Palace will not recruit any subordinates from the Tianzi continent. How can we pave the way? Wang Xian looked at the celestial king in the sky and said with a smile, every time there is a catastrophe, hundreds of millions or even billions of us humans will die at the hands of the sea monsters. Usually, tens of thousands or tens of thousands of soldiers have died at the hands of the sea monsters. We have died in battle at the hands of the sea monsters, but we have no regrets. This is fate. However, if we die at the hands of humans, we will not be able to live up to it. There are only soldiers who have died in battle. How can there be soldiers who have been killed by humans? Our Tianzi continent has its own laws and rules. Anyone who kills innocents will have to pay the price. Dragon King, do you know your crime? The Sky God King locked his gaze on Wang Xian and shouted with a cold expression, they are here. Oh no. In front, everyone's expression changed slightly when they heard the Sky God King's word. This scene had finally arrived. Know your crime? A bunch of people who are courting death. So what if they die? Wang Xian looked at the Sky God King and said with disdain, ha ha ha, so what if you are good? All the top-notch experts in my sword domain and Sky City have been killed by you. Today, I will tell you how it is. Today is the day of the memorial ceremony. I think it is just right to use your blood to pay tribute to the dead heroic spirit. The celestial king of the sky laughed maniacally and roared with killing intent in his voice. Use your blood to pay tribute to the heroic spirit. Boom. The Sky God King let out a low roar from the side. An incomparably terrifying aura shot straight into the sky. Buzz. Don't affect the others. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Xian Tianzi waved his arm and sealed off his aura as he spoke indifferently. Mo Hen looked at Xian Tianzi and frowned. He didn't say a word. You think you can kill me? Aren't you too confident? Wang Xian looked at the godly king of sword and the godly king of sky and asked coldly, ha ha ha, Dragon King, you killed all the godlords in Sky City. I will definitely take your blood for today's sacrifice. You will know very soon whether the two of us can kill you or not. Didn't you want to establish a force to pacify the underground sea? Then let us see your strength. If you can't even withstand our judgment, forget about pacifying the underground sea. Go to hell. The Sword God King moved and instantly appeared on the left of Wang Xian. A huge sword floated above his head and locked onto Wang Xian. The two of them stared at him coldly, one on the left and one on the right. In an instant, the atmosphere around them changed drastically. Everyone in front of them turned slightly pale. Sky Celestial King, Sword Celestial King, the two of you won't be able to keep the Dragon King alive. What's the point? Xian Tianzi looked at them and said with a frown, Xian Tianzi, the ones who died were all the experts from our Sky City and Sword Domain. They were the blood and sweat of hundreds of thousands of years. What do you think? Sky Celestial King said to Xian Tianzi with bloodshot eyes, I'm not wrong. The two of you won't be able to keep the Dragon King alive. It's just a waste of time. Xian Tianzi said indifferently, since we are going to make a move, we will naturally be prepared. Let's make a move. The godly Sword King smiled sinisterly and roared loudly, buzz. The next moment, a resplendent imprisonment ring flew towards Wang Xian at a terrifying speed. It came directly to the top of his head and imprisoned him, buzz, buzz, buzz. Following that, Figures suddenly appeared in front and behind Wang Xian. Even in the sky, there was a middle-aged man floating in the air. When everyone saw the three figures that suddenly appeared, their expressions changed drastically. Chapter 24:11. 24:11 2411 Slaying Godly Monarchs, Dragon Palace Establishment 2. What? These are three godly monarchs. Hiss, why did three godly monarchs suddenly appear? Who are those three people? Are they the helpers Sky Godly Monarch and the others found? These three godly monarchs suddenly appeared. The moment the three people suddenly appeared, everyone revealed shocked expressions. Three godly monarchs had actually appeared. Even during the calamity, it was extremely difficult for the Tianzi Great Land to invite a godly monarch. Now, the Sky Godly Monarch and Sword Godly Monarch had actually invited three godly monarchs. This was completely beyond everyone's expectations. 3. Even Xian Tianzi and Mo Hen's expressions changed when they saw this scene. They knew how difficult it was to invite a godly monarch to help them. Now, there were three godly monarchs helping them kill the Dragon King. It's not good for outsiders to participate in the matters of our Tianzi continent. Xian Tianzi's expression changed as he said to the Sky Godly Monarch and Sword Godly Monarch in a deep voice. Outsiders? Xian Tianzi, Godly Monarch, the Dragon King is also an outsider. Can he kill people from our Sky City and Sword Domain? Sky Divine King roared with a gloomy face. Xian Tianzi, Battle Technique Mo Hen, if any of you stop us from killing the Dragon King today, don't blame us for having a life and death struggle. Sword Divine King stood straight with a sword as he threatened with a sinister tone. Xian Tianzi and Invincible Battle Technique's expressions changed slightly. Sky Divine King and Sword Divine King could really do such a thing. Almost all the powerhouses that they had built up in their lifetime had been killed. They would definitely not be so satisfied. Three Celestial Kings, the Dragon King, should have no enmity with you, right? Wang Xian was surprised when he saw the three Celestial Kings that had suddenly appeared. There were three foreign Celestial Kings, including the Sword Celestial King and the Sky Celestial King. There were a total of 5 Celestial Kings. How can there be so many grudges in this world? Just do what you want. If I want to kill you, I will kill you. The old man in front of them said with a carefree expression. He didn't put Wang Xian in his eyes at all. The chances of 2 godly monarchs killing one were not high. It would be easy for the other party to escape. If there were 3 of them, there was a high chance that they would be able to keep the other party here. If there were 4 of them, with the imprisonment ring, there was a 90% chance that they would be able to keep the other party here. The 5 of them had a 100% chance of suppressing their opponent. The confinement circle has been locked on. Is there no need for me to make a move? The middle-aged man said with a smile on his face. Are you courting death? Wang Xian swept his gaze across the 3 of them. A hint of killing intent flashed across his eyes. Make your move as soon as possible. Don't waste time. An old man at the back heard Wang Xian's words and said indifferently, clang. The sharp sound of a sharp sword rang out. Crash. 2 huge angel swords that were emitting white rays of light. The Godly Sword King pointed one huge sword at Wang Xian while the Godly Sky King pointed 2 huge swords. A pair of pure white wings appeared behind his back. The killing intent instantly covered a radius of more than 10,000 kilometers. Buzz. Xian Tianzi and Battle Tactic Mo Hen immediately flew towards the front of tens of millions of people to withstand the terrifying killing intent. Otherwise, just the aftershocks would not be able to withstand the tens of millions of people. They would be severely injured. Do you need help? At the same time, Xian Tianzi immediately sent a voice transmission to Wang Xian with an unpleasant expression. There's no need. A calm voice immediately reached his ears. The Dragon King is doomed. He's locked onto by the confinement circle and is besieged by 5 godly monarchs. He's completely doomed. There's no way he can escape now. There are 5 godly monarchs. Any one of them might not be a match for him. After all, the Dragon King has just advanced to the Godlord realm. The Dragon King is in big trouble now. He might die. He just advanced to the Godlord realm not long ago. He's really unlucky. Who asked him to kill the experts of our Sky City and the Sword Domain? Serves him right. Serves him right. The appearance of the 5 godly monarchs caused everyone behind to panic. When they saw this scene, they were all discussing in shock. Ha ha ha, the Dragon King was still bragging about establishing a force to calm the underground sea. Now, he's about to fall. This is what you get for killing my grandfather. Let your Dragon King be arrogant and die. Lord Godly Monarch, kill him. At this moment, on the AI, the descendants of the experts from the Sword Domain of Sky City saw this scene and revealed extremely ferocious expression. They looked at the scenes on the AI and excitedly sent out messages one after another. When the others saw this, they sighed in their hearts. The Dragon King had just advanced and it was impossible for him to kill 5 people of the same level. There was even no hope of escaping. Ha ha ha, Dragon King, let's see where you can escape to now. Very soon, I will use my blood to pay tribute to all the heroic spirits in Sky City. The Sky God King couldn't help but laugh maniacally. His face was filled with bloodlust. Do you really think that 5 God Kings can kill me? Wang Xian looked at them coldly. Make your move. A person who is about to die still dares to shout. The Godly Sword King growled. Don't waste time. He is just a godly king who has just advanced. The old man in front of him said indifferently as well. Ha ha ha, all right. 5 godly kings. Today, my Dragon King will lead the Dragon Palace to kill 5 godly kings and announce the founding of the Dragon Palace. When Wang Xian heard their words, he laughed arrogantly and roared loudly. Disciples of the Dragon Palace. He roared in a low voice. At the same time, he moved his palm and the 5 elements millstone appeared in his hand. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Here. As soon as Wang Xian finished his sentence, Ao Chitian, Ao Xingmu, Ao Qi, and Muzasan appeared in all 4 directions. With that, Ao Yao and the other Dragon Spur Dragon Seed hid in the void. Ha ha ha, let's fight. Kill them all. Wang Xian roared and moved the 5 elements millstone in his hand. Crack, crack, crack. In an instant, the 5 elements millstone in his hand rose into the sky. Numerous black holes that seemed to be condensed from laws appeared in the entire sky in an instant. The terrifying formation covered a radius of 20,000 kilometers. The entire memorial square was covered in it. Even tens of millions of people were completely covered. A completely independent world appeared. Roar, roar, roar. The moment the black hole appeared, roars came from all directions. The members of the Dragon Palace who had taken human forms immediately revealed themselves, and a wild and violent aura surged out in all direction. The sudden change made everyone around them look extremely shocked. They looked at the members of the Dragon Palace in shock, looking at the space around them. What's happening? Tens of millions of people were stunned. The upper echelons of the Federation squinted as they looked at the 4 warriors of the Dragon Palace. The strange space, the terrifying beasts, the powerful pressure. The pressure from each of them was no weaker than the God Emperor. 4 Undyings. Another 4 Undyings suddenly appeared. Everyone couldn't help but take in a cold breath. Chapter 2412. 2412 2412 Beheading God King, Dragon Palace Establishment 3. Let me introduce to you the Black Hole Spatial Disturbance Formation. This is also the formation that Sky City has always wanted. They even sent God Lord Level 9 and Peak God Lord experts to hunt me down. The current power of this formation can prevent the immortal God King from returning to his immortal God country. Since you guys want to kill me, let's give it a try. Hey. Wang Xian's voice resounded in everyone's ears from within the black hole-filled formation. He stood in the middle of the 5 immortal kings, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly as he looked at the shocked people around him with a smile. Damn it! At this moment, the 3 people from the Heaven Beast Corporation revealed an extremely embarrassed expression. Their eyes swept across Ao Xingmu and the rest as they clenched their fists tightly. 4 more godly monarch warriors had suddenly appeared. They had not placed the Dragon King in their eyes before. Now, they were in big trouble. This strange array space was what they wanted to obtain, however the other party had 5 undying godly monarch. In a battle, they could forget about winning. Even if they won, How many of them would still be alive? Sky God King, Sword God King, didn't you say that there was only one God King? The elder in front growled with an embarrassed expression. This. At that moment, Sword God King and Sky God King's foreheads broke out in cold sweat. Their expressions kept changing. 5 God Kings, and the Dragon King actually had 4 God Kings under him. There was a total of 5. Today, wanting to kill him was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The moment they couldn't kill him, the moment he retaliated, their Sky City and Sword Domain would have no way to defend. They wouldn't even dare to appear in the Tianzi continent in the future. Thinking of this, their expressions were extremely dark. They had fallen this time, they had completely fallen. Who would have thought that the Dragon King's Dragon Palace would be so terrifying? 4 undyings, and the Dragon Emperor actually has 4 God Emperor underlings. My God, is this the power of the Dragon Palace? This is too heaven-defying. No wonder the Dragon Emperor would say something like calming the underground sea. This. Sky and Sword God Emperor have completely kicked a metal board. Below, tens of millions of people stared blankly ahead, swallowing hard. The strength of the Dragon Palace was beyond everyone's expectations. Is this his trump card? Xian Tianzi's expression changed slightly. Including Wang Xian, there were a total of 5 godly monarchs. Even he himself couldn't withstand this force. I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it. This time, it's our Heaven Beast Corporation's fault. We won't participate in the battle between you guys. In the future, our Heaven Beast Corporation will not have any thoughts of attacking your formation. The 3 people from the Heaven Beast Corporation looked at each other with gloomy expressions. The old man in front of them looked at Wang Xian and said directly, "What? Heaven Beast Corporation, you guys? Shut up. We have been screwed by you guys this time. If it's possible, we really want to kill you guys." Sky Celestial King's expression changed when he heard the Heavenly Beast Corporation's expert's words. He immediately roared. However, before he could finish his words, the elder in front of him interrupted him. This time, in order to obtain the array formation, the Heavenly Beast Corporation did not hesitate to take out a precious confinement ring that could confine a first-level godly monarch. However, the current situation was actually facing 5 undying godly monarchs. 5 godly monarchs were no longer a small faction. They could already pose a threat to the Heaven Beast Corporation. They knew that they could not suppress the other party, so they naturally gave up. Although they had provoked the other party, it was not to the point where they would fight to the death. Taking the opportunity to give up could reduce their losses. When the Sky and Sword godly monarchs saw the Heaven Beast Corporation's decision, a hint of fear flashed in their eyes. 5 against 2, and it was still in this space. If they were to fight, they would definitely die in the end. If you want to kill me, then kill me. If you want to leave, then leave. Wang Xian looked at the 3 immortal godly kings of the Heaven Beast Corporation with a hint of disdain on his face. What do you mean? Just as Wang Xian finished his sentence, the expression of the old man at the front changed slightly. He stared at Wang Xian coldly. What do you mean? Of course, I want to keep you guys here. Wang Xian looked at him and smiled gently. Keep us here. Ha ha ha, not to mention the Celestial King of the Sky and the Godly King of Swords. Even without them, it's impossible for you guys to keep us here. Dragon King, don't be ungrateful. Don't completely anger our Heaven Beast Corporation. The middle-aged man in the sky shouted with a cold face. His face was filled with killing intent. Ha ha ha, are all the Heaven Beast Corporation trash? They came to kill me together with the Sword God King, the Sky God King. Now, they are actually fleeing in fear. What a joke. Since they are here, let's fight. Let's see who can get out alive in the end. Ha ha ha. When Wang Xian saw the middle-aged man laughing maniacally, he also laughed maniacally with a cold face. In a battle of the same level, Wang Xian had never been afraid of anyone. The people from the Heaven Beast organization wanted to kill him. Now that he was so strong, they wanted to leave immediately. Was that possible? Since they had made up their minds, they had to pay the price. When the people from the Heaven Beast organization heard Wang Xian's words, their faces changed drastically. They scanned the 4 members of the dragon palace around them gloomily. They had the same number of godly monarchs, yet the other party wanted to fight to the death with them. This was something that they had never expected. Damn it. The 3 of them had ugly expressions on their faces. This time, their lives might be in danger. Sky godly monarch, sword godly monarch, make your move. If you can't destroy me this time, I will smash your high and mighty sky city to the ground. I will break all the swords in your sword domain. If you want to kill me, you will have to pay the price. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the 5 of them as he spoke with a furious expression. Waves of terrifying killing intent burst out from his body. Tens of millions of people felt the invincible aura from the Dragon King. Their faces were filled with shock as they watched with their mouths agape. 5 godly monarchs against 5 godly monarchs, and they actually dared to fight with their lives on the line. The Dragon King is too fierce. If they fight, the godly monarchs will also fall. This is too. Everyone was at a loss for words. They stared with their eyes wide open. Among them, the people from the city in the sky and the sword domain looked extremely embarrassed. Would their godly monarch be a match for the Dragon King? Would the city in the sky and the sword domain really be destroyed in the future? At this moment, especially on the AI. The scene before their eyes was clearly displayed on the AI. The entire Tianzi continent's 100 billion people watched in a daze. Aghast, aghast. The comments that had arrogantly said that they would destroy the Dragon King had disappeared. At this moment, everyone in the Sword Domain and Sky City felt endless fear. The strength of the Dragon Palace was no longer something that their godly monarchs could contend against. Next, the Sky City and the Sword Domain would probably face a huge disaster. Was it possible to pray that their godly monarchs would kill the Dragon King and destroy the Dragon Palace? Chapter 2413. 2413 2413 Beheading God King, Dragon Palace Founding Era 4. Good, good, good. Dragon King, do you really think we are afraid of you? You have just reached the immortal God King realm, and a God King who has just reached the immortal God King realm dares to fight with us. Ha ha ha. The 3 of you from the Heaven Beast Corporation, you have been accused of being trash and the other party won't let you off. Aren't you going to make your move now? Sword God King held the huge sword in his hand tightly and roared at the 3 people from the Heaven Beast Corporation. HMPH, shut up. Today, our Heaven Beast Corporation is going to kill 3 godly monarchs. 2 of them will be handed over to you. The old man at the front of the Heaven Beast Corporation roared at Sword God King with a cold expression. He stared at Wang Xian and said with a cold expression, "Since that's the case, let's fight." Ha ha ha. Leave the Dragon King to me. I want to kill him with my own hands. The Sky Celestial King's face was ice cold as he locked onto the Wang Immortal and roared in an eerie manner. HMPH, you must leave the Dragon King to us. East Heaven, you take over the Dragon King. The old man at the front of the Heaven Beast Corporation immediately retorted as he spoke to the middle-aged man in the sky. All right. The middle-aged man in the sky nodded and replied loudly. He was still very confident in dealing with a celestial king who had just advanced. He wanted to suppress him and obtain the array formation that was currently trapping them. Chimpate. The God King in the sky saw that his opponent wanted to deal with the Dragon King. He snorted and didn't continue to fight. He knew that his opponent still wanted to obtain the array. Very good, kill. Wang Xian saw that his opponent was still fighting with him. A smile appeared on his face. He moved his body and instantly attacked the middle-aged man in the sky. His arm instantly turned into a dragon claw. The 7-colored dragon claw tore towards him. You're courting death. A thing that has just advanced to the immortal godly monarch realm dares to fight against me, the middle-aged man shouted, and a pagoda appeared in his hand. The pagoda was red and the law flames on it were burning. He waved his arm and the pagoda instantly became bigger and attacked Wang Xian. Boom. A terrifying collision represented the eruption of the battle. Roar, roar, roar. At this moment, Ao Chitian, Ao Xingmu, and the others roared. A violent aura spread out like a terrifying hurricane. The blood-red energy was filled with blood and brutality. The 2 of them attacked the Sky Celestial King and Sword Celestial King together. Whoosh, Whoosh, whoosh. Mao Zedong pulled apart the distance and locked onto one of them with a terrifying bow and arrow. Ao Xingmu, on the other hand, waved his branches and headed straight for the other two godly monarchs of the Heaven Beast Corporation. The two of them joined forces to fight against the two of them. The battle completely erupted. The area affected by the battle between the two godly monarchs could reach a radius of over 10,000 kilometers. The battle between the 10 godly monarchs in this space appeared to be very small. Some of the aftershocks hit the black hole, disturbing the air array formation and set off waves of ripples. This array formation might soon be destroyed by the aftershocks. Wang. Below, Xian Tianzi immediately set up a large array formation, enveloping tens of millions of people inside. No one is to walk out of the array formation, he shouted softly as his eyes sparkled as he looked at the battle above. Big brother Xian Tianzi, should we take action to destroy the Sky Celestial King and Sword Celestial King? At that moment, Battle Technique Mo Hen's voice suddenly reached Xian Tianzi's ears, causing him to be slightly stunned as he looked over in astonishment. Our Battle Technique aristocratic clan owes the Dragon King a huge favor. I might take action later. Battle Technique Mo Hen looked at him and smiled, his voice ringing in his mind. Yes, now that I can guarantee that I can destroy the Sky Celestial King and Sword Celestial King, I'm prepared to take action. However, it's not easy to kill the people from the Heaven Beast Corporation. Otherwise, they might deal with our Tianzi continent. Xian Tianzi replied indifferently. All right, find an opportunity to take action. It's best to kill them in one strike. The battle method, Mo Hen said. Is this the battle between the God Kings? It's too terrifying. The void seems to be tearing apart with cracks. Substantial laws can cause cracks to appear in the void. The immortal God King's divine kingdom is within the void cracks. If the 5-on-5 battle continues, there might really be a God King dying. From the back, everyone looked at the battle in the sky in shock. This was the first time that a godly monarch's battle was so close to them. I wonder who will win. No matter who wins, as long as the Dragon King doesn't die, the city in the sky and the sword domain will be the biggest losers. After all, the Heavenly Beast Corporation won't protect them. What's going on with the battle now? The speed is too fast. I can't see it at all. Everyone on the AI was watching the video. At this moment, the video was filled with all sorts of colors. They couldn't see the battle clearly at all. Suppress him for me. How dare a trash like you, who has just advanced to the Godly King level, provoke our Heaven Beast Corporation? I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. In the middle of the battlefield, the middle-aged man's eyes were filled with killing intent. The flaming pagoda in his hand instantly expanded to a radius of more than 1,000 kilometers. The flaming pagoda emitted a loud burning sound. The gigantic pagoda was pressing down on Wang Xian. He stood on the pagoda and infused the power of laws into it. It was as if a god of fire had descended from the sky. Oh no, that fellow's divine weapon is very strong. The Dragon King has just advanced to the immortal God King level. He might not be able to block it. Below, Mo Hen, who was using the battle technique, exclaimed in shock when he saw this attack. Hey! The Dragon King is not his opponent. It's normal that he is not his opponent. After all, the Dragon King has just advanced to the immortal godly king level. Those who heard from behind were slightly shocked as they discussed among themselves. Hehe, this is the time. Wang Xian looked at the flaming pagoda in the sky and revealed a smile. He looked at the middle-aged godly king of the Heaven Beast Corporation who was looking down on him ferociously. His face was filled with mockery. Buzz. At this moment, Ao Yaro's figure appeared behind the middle-aged godly king. Provoking your Heaven Beast Corporation? You are courting death. Remember, don't provoke me in your next life. Wang Xian looked at the middle-aged godly king and said indifferently. Huh. The middle-aged godly king was slightly stunned when he saw Wang Xian's confidence. Suddenly, a death threat shrouded his heart. This caused him to be filled with horror. What was going on? Why did he feel the threat of death? His body instantly burst out with terrifying fire laws. However, at that instant, a claw that was as sharp as a dagger stabbed into the top of his head. The scythe-like claw pierced straight through his neck. One was light, while the other was darkness. Two extreme energies entered his body, instantly extinguishing his life force. No. The middle-aged godly monarch felt the life force in his body rapidly disappear. He widened his eyes and shouted in disbelief. His voice was filled with despair and fear. He could not believe that such a terrifying existence was hiding in this void. What? Eastern sky? The other two godly monarchs of the Heaven Beast Corporation were horrified when they heard this despairing voice. They hurriedly turned their heads and looked over. When they saw a strange black and white shadow attached to the middle-aged man's back, their pupils constricted. They were filled with shock. Chapter 2414. 2414 Slaying the Godly King, Dragon Palace Establishment 5. What happened? What's going on? The middle-aged godly king of the Heavenly Beast group roared, causing everyone to be stunned. Below, everyone looked up in a daze, but most of them couldn't see the exact situation. The Dragon King is still prepared. This terrifying assassination of the godly king is so powerful. Mohen also saw the strange black and white figure. Looking at the figure behind the middle-aged godly monarch, he felt his scalp tingling. If this figure suddenly appeared behind him, he would be severely injured even if he didn't die. This was too strange. This creature is indeed terrifying and impossible to guard against. No wonder little brother Wang Xian is so confident. Xian Tianzi was also staring at Ao Yarrow with a solemn expression. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, there was a high possibility of killing him. Oh no, a godly monarch from the Heaven Beast Corporation was actually killed. Damn it, is he trash? The Sky Godly Monarch turned his head and roared furiously when he saw this scene with blood-red eyes. The other party has an immortal godly monarch who is good at hiding and assassinating. Be careful, everyone be careful. Sword God King looked over, his eyes revealing a trace of fear as he roared loudly. Suddenly, a strange assassination of a godly monarch appeared. Their side instantly lost one person, and the current situation was 6 against 4. The moment another person fell, it was very likely that all of them would die here today. Damn it, break this array formation and let's escape. The two godly kings of the Heaven Beast Corporation roared furiously with a face full of shock and anger. They could no longer win this battle. Since they could not win, there was no need for them to fight anymore. They had to escape immediately. The two of them did not hesitate at all. They took on the attacks of Mao Zedong and Ao Xingmu head-on and charged towards the black hole disturbing formation. Ao Yarrow, let's block them. Don't let them escape. The black hole interference formation could not withstand their attacks. When Wang Xian saw that they wanted to escape, his eyes were filled with coldness. He moved his body and instantly attacked one of the elders. Break it open and resist the attacks from behind. When the elder who was the leader of the Heaven Beast Corporation saw Wang Xian and the rest attacking, he gritted his teeth and shouted loudly. All right. The other old man responded loudly. He clenched his teeth as well and a huge shield appeared behind him. Lock onto one of them. Wang Xian roared furiously and the 4 of them attacked one of the old men. I'll hold them off. Elder Liu, you break the formation. The old man who was attacked sensed the terrifying energy behind him and didn't dare to continue attacking the formation. He immediately turned around and ignited his life force to unleash a terrifying defense. Boom, boom, boom. The attacks of Wang Xian, Ao Xingmu, and Mu Zedong landed on his defense and immediately shattered it. The terrifying power of laws landed on his body and sent him flying backward. He was seriously injured. In a 4-on-1 situation, unless one had a terrifying formation like Xian Tianzi, it would be difficult to withstand it. Clearly, the old man did not have Xian Tianzi's strength. Bang! At this moment, another old man's attack landed on the black hole disturbing the air formation, causing the entire formation to shake violently. Hold on for another 3 seconds. When the old man saw the violent fluctuations of the formation, a bright light appeared in his eyes, and he immediately roared loudly. Good. The injured old man roared loudly. In 3 seconds, he could block it. Wang. However, in the next moment, the threat of death engulfed him, a black and white shadow appeared behind him. Pu. The old man didn't have any strength to resist, he was instantly pierced through by the sharp claws. He stared wide-eyed, filled with disbelief. Another one, another undying emperor. Cough, cough, cough. The old man coughed violently as large amounts of blood flowed out. The old man who was attacking the array formation froze. He turned his head stiffly, and when he saw this scene, his eyes were filled with fear and shock. No, Dragon King, if you dare to kill us, our Heavenly Beast Corporation will not let you off. The old man's expression was savage as he roared in fear. 2 of them. In less than a minute, the 2 godly monarchs of the Heaven Beast Corporation were assassinated. He was the only one left. What made him feel the most despair was that there were 7 godly monarchs. 7 of them, a total of 7. Among them, there were 2 terrifying assassins. As for whether there were such terrifying existences in the surrounding void, he was not sure. Surround and kill. When Wang Xian heard his threat, his face was filled with disdain. In the beginning, the 3 people from the Heaven Beast Corporation didn't put him in their eyes. Now, he. Even if they knelt down and begged him, he wouldn't let them off. Boom, boom, boom. With Wang Xian's order, the next moment, all of them attacked the old man directly. 5 against 1. With the strength of Ao Yarrow and the other dragon spur, it was a piece of cake to kill him. No, no, no. When Ao Yarrow and the rest appeared around the old man, and when Wang Xian, Mao Zedong, and Ao Xingmu's attack came from the front, the last old man of the Heaven Beast group let out a desperate roar. The gap was too big. It was so big that he could not put up any resistance at all. Ao Yarrow and the rest had to spend 5 times more resources than the other dragon species to raise their combat strength to Immortal King level. Similarly, once they had the combat strength of Immortal King level 1, it meant that they could almost instantly kill those of the same level. This was something that the other dragon species could not do. When the last scream of the Heaven Beast Corporation rang out, it meant that 3 Immortal King level experts had fallen. There are still 2 more. Wang Xian casually put away their corpses and looked to the side. Ao Chitian and Ao Qi were fighting against the Sky God King and Sword God King. However, at this moment, they were not fighting together. The atmosphere in the entire space was a little strange. The Sky Celestial King and the Sword Celestial King looked at Ao Chitian and the rest warily from afar. Their eyes were looking in Wang Xian's direction. At this moment, their foreheads were covered in cold sweat and their faces were extremely pale. Even the sword that the Sword Celestial King was holding was trembling. Gulp. Below them, everyone swallowed their saliva and looked up at the sky in shock. Without the explosion of energy, many people could see it clearly. In less than 2 minutes, the 3 godly monarchs of the Heaven Beast Corporation had completely fallen. They did not have the slightest ability to resist. However, there were 2 more godly monarchs on the Dragon King's side, 2 powerful and strange godly monarch. They looked at Sky and Sword godly monarchs and smacked their lips. Looking at their pale faces and despair-filled expressions, the 2 of them were in a daze. Now that it was 2 against 7, 3 undying godly monarchs had been destroyed within 2 minutes. How many seconds could the 2 of them hold out? This time, Sky and Sword godly monarchs were completely defeated. Chapter 2415. 2415 2415 Killing God Emperor, Dragon Palace Establishment 6. This is over. Sky God Emperor and Sword God Emperor are finished. The Dragon Emperor and Dragon Palace are so strong. They are simply too strong. 7 undying God Emperors and 2 mysterious God Emperor assassins. No wonder Dragon Emperor said that the Dragon Palace can calm the underground sea. 7 undying God Emperors, it might be possible. It's over. Our Sky City is completely finished. Dragon King and the others are actually so powerful. We are completely finished. Within the black hole space, everyone below looked up and gulp. Shock, fear, respect. Especially the people from Sky City and the Sword Domain, looking at this scene, their bodies trembled. Such a powerful Dragon King, such a powerful Dragon Palace, how could they defend? They could already predict the outcome. The city in the sky and the Sword Domain are completely cold. Now pack up and get ready to run. Ha ha ha, just now you arrogantly said that the Dragon King will die. Now it's cold. The city in the sky pill of the Sword Domain. On the AI, everyone in the Tianzi continent looked at this scene in shock. However, at this moment, some people on the bullet screen began to mock. The two godly kings were the heroes of the entire Tianzi continent, but the Dragon King was also their hero. Now that the Dragon King had displayed such terrifying strength, many people were happy to see it. This was because the Dragon King was preparing to establish his power in the underground sea, which was a good thing for the entire Tianzi continent. With the current strength of the Dragon Palace, even if they could not calm the underground sea, they could reduce the danger for humanity. 7 undying godly monarchs. This power was much stronger than the entire Tianzi continent. Sigh, pack up and run. Let's go to the mysterious sky territory. The mysterious sky territory is not bad. Now that the godly monarch is dead, the top warriors of our 2 regions have all been killed. Even if we stay here, we will not be able to withstand the invasion of the sea monsters. Let's go. The Sky City and Sword Domain people watched. Many of them started to pack their things. The Sky City and Sword Domain were completely cold. Dragon Emperor, we have something to talk about. As the God Emperor of the Tianzi continent, give us a chance. Within the black hole space, Sword God Emperor looked at the 7 undyings surrounding them. He licked his lips and said with a pale face. His voice was weak and did not have the sharpness of Sword Principle at all. I'm not the God King of the Tianzi continent, and this is what you said. Wang Xian looked at him mockingly when he heard his word. Dragon King, leave a line in your work. In the future, we swear that we will never find trouble with you again. We are willing to take out all our savings to save our lives. The celestial king of the sky stood there and his expression kept changing as he spoke to Wang Xian. Hehe, I don't believe in you guys. I only believe in dead people. Do it. Wang Xian smiled sinisterly and ordered immediately. At the same time, his body moved and he attacked the celestial king of the sky directly. Boom, 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 buzz, buzz. The next moment, the members of the Dragon Palace took action immediately. Ao Yarrow and the rest immediately hid in the void and were ready to launch a fatal attack at any time. Oh no. The 2 of them were horrified when they saw Wang Xian and the rest charging over. Celestial King Shen Tianzi, please save us. As long as we are still alive, all of us can work together to calm the entire underground sea. Save us. The Celestial King of the Sky looked at Celestial King Shen Tianzi and pleaded with a face full of pleading. I can't make the decision on this. Shen Tianzi replied coldly when he heard his plea for help. Just now, he was not allowed to interfere, but now he wanted him to save them. Was that possible? If he did not say it, he would not agree, and neither would the Dragon King. The people from the Heaven Beast Corporation had been killed, so they had to die. No, save us. As long as you do not kill us, we are willing to do anything. The Sky Celestial King roared in fear. No one can save you today. You have brought this on yourselves. Wang Xian stared at him coldly. A terrifying energy blasted out. Faced with the attacks from Wang Xian and the members of the Dragon Palace, they kept retreating. As they retreated, they had to be careful of the assassinations around them. Buzz. More than 10 seconds later, Ao Yarrow and the other Dragon Spur appeared beside the Sky Celestial King at the same time. The moment they appeared, Sky God Emperor's eyes widened as his blood-red eyes roared in terror. How could he defend against that? He might not even be able to defend against 1 Dragonspine's assassination, much less 2. A scream sounded. It represented the fall of Sky God Emperor. An undying God Emperor that had suppressed the Tianzi continent for hundreds of thousands of years, had fallen under the attention of everyone in the Tianzi continent. Once Sky God King dies, it will be Sword God King's turn. There's no room for resistance. Everyone thought to themselves when they saw this scene. The following battle was just as everyone had expected. 1 against 7, even though Sword God King was much stronger than Sky God King, he was still swiftly killed. Peng. As Sword God King's corpse crashed heavily onto the ground, everyone pursed their lip. The end of the 2 godly kings represented the end of the 2 forces. The city in the sky and the sword domain might soon disappear from the stage of the Tianzi continent. Buzz. Wang Xian landed on the ground and collected the bodies of the two godly kings. With a wave of his arm, the formation disappeared completely. I hereby announce that the Dragon Palace will enter the underground sea of the Tianzi continent. Soon, the Dragon Palace will unify the sea. Wang Xian stood at the front and looked at the tens of millions of people in front of him. Under the gaze of everyone in the Tianzi continent, he announced calmly, "Hehe, congratulations on the establishment of the Dragon Palace, Dragon King." Xian Tianzi looked at Wang Xian and cupped his hands with a smile on his face to congratulate him. "Congratulations, congratulations." Mo Hen, the battle technique, also said with a smile, "Haha, the Dragon Palace will open in 3 days. Welcome, everyone. We will not disturb you anymore today," Wang Xian said with a smile on his face. Ao Chitian and Ao Qi, lead some disciples of the Dragon Palace to the city in the sky and the sword domain. Bring all the eternal and immortal kingdoms of the two major forces to the Dragon Palace. He said the last sentence and flew directly to the underground sea. Everyone heard the last sentence clearly. Xian Tianzi and the rest did not say anything. The winner takes all. The Dragon King and the others deserved the spoils of war. Moreover, the Dragon King didn't kill ordinary people, so they wouldn't stop him. The Tianzi Continent Federation has announced that the Dragon King of the Dragon Palace is one of the highest commanders in the Tianzi continent. The troops of the Tianzi Continent Federation are under the command of the Dragon King. The Dragon King has averted this catastrophe. There is a high possibility of pacifying the underground sea in the future. The Dragon King will forever remember the history of our Tianzi continent and be worshipped by the people of the world. The Supreme Commander of the Federation stepped forward and announced an order. The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace had completely entered the Tianzi continent and entered this bright area. Chapter 2416. 2416 Dragon Palace was established, and it was the Heaven Beast Corporation. The harvest this time is not bad. In the underground sea, Wang Xian was looking around with a smile on his face. The corpses of 5 immortal godly monarchs could increase the combat strength of 5 immortal godly monarchs for the Dragon Palace after being killed. In addition to the treasures in their interspatial rings, they could increase the combat strength of 5 to 6 peak stage godly monarchs for the Dragon Palace. Among them, the Sky God King and Sword God King's immortal god country. Wang Xian was prepared to let Ao Crab devour them all. After he devoured them, he could completely reach the immortal god king level. This was not the combat strength of an immortal god king, but the immortal god king level. At that time, with his strength, he could fight against an eternal god lord level 3 existence. After all, he could directly devour the eternal god country of 2 immortal god kings. Once Ao Crab truly stepped into the level of an undying godly monarch, the underground sea king immortal would be able to get rid of him immediately. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on his face. Next, I have to find a place for the Dragon Palace. Since I have decided to unify the underground sea as soon as possible, the best location would be the central region. Wang Xian thought to himself. He took out his AI and looked at the map of the Tianzi continent. The map of the Tianzi continent was basically 50% split between the land and the ocean. Of course, this did not include the underground ocean beneath the land. Why don't I place the Dragon Palace at the Wall of Protection? Wang Xian was deep in thought. The Wall of Protection was considered to be the border between the ocean and the land. There was an important reason why Wang Xian announced the establishment of the Dragon Palace in such a grand manner. That was to prepare for the gathering of resources for the Dragon Palace. The Fire Hammer clan was a natural-born blacksmith. The weapons they produced could bring a lot of resources to the Dragon Palace. Furthermore, Feng Luan was good at refining medicine. The pills she refined could also bring a huge amount of resources to the Dragon Palace. The improvement of the Dragon Palace would depend on the Dragon Palace itself. This way, it would not drag Wang Xian down and could even feed him back. It's at the bottom of the sea in front of the Wall of Protection. Wang Xian immediately decided to fly towards the location of the Wall of Protection. After his strength had improved, his speed was much faster. Furthermore, he did not have to worry about encountering sea monsters even if he teleported. In the entire underground sea, Unless a few immortal godly monarchs gathered together, there would not be any problems. As Wang Xian flew towards the wall of protection, the entire Tianzi continent was in turmoil. The Dragon King led his 6 subordinates to kill the Sky Godly Monarch, Sword Godly Monarch, and even the 3 godly monarchs of the Heaven Beast Corporation. Everyone was clear about this. The death of the Sky Godly Monarch and Sword Godly Monarch represented the complete decline of the city in the sky and the sword domain. The 2 godly monarchs of the Dragon Palace brought their men and flew towards the city in the sky and the sword domain. The arrival of the 2 god kings did not kill the innocent. However, all the god lords and treasures that were killed in the Sky City were taken away by the Dragon Palace. No one dared to take advantage of the situation. This was because they were like ants in front of the god kings. Later on, the Federation government sent people over to contact the 2 god kings of the Dragon Palace, hoping that they would not completely destroy the Sky City and the sword domain. They also promised to give 50% of the taxes of the city in the sky and the sword domain to the Dragon Palace in the future. As for the city in the sky and the sword domain, they would be taken over by the Federation. If the sea monsters invaded the city in the sky and the sword domain in the future, the Dragon Palace would help to guard it. Wang Xian naturally agreed to such a good thing after he received it. He would be able to obtain a terrifying amount of resources without paying anything. Wang Xian was naturally happy to see that. Therefore, he did not order Ao Chitian and the rest to destroy the city in the sky. Everyone in the city in the sky and the sword domain heaved a sigh of relief when they received the news. This was the best thing for them. They did not have to move away. They would still have the protection of the Dragon Palace in the future. It was a pleasant surprise. This is it. At the bottom of the sea 100 kilometers away from the wall of protection, Wang Xian, Ao Xingmu, and the rest were standing at the bottom of the sea that was more than 100 million kilometers deep. Their eyes scanned their surroundings. Buzz. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat. The phantom image of the Dragon Palace appeared behind him. The phantom image slowly materialized. Boom. 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 Soon, a dragon palace that was more than 1,000 kilometers in circumference appeared in front of them. The majestic dragon gate and the towering ocean pacifying needle. A vast aura. I've finally found my footing in this resplendent land. Wang Xian looked at the dragon palace in front of him and smiled. Buzz. Buzz. At this moment, good news came from the communication stone plate in Wang Xian's hand. The immortal kingdom of the Sky God King and the Sword God King had been found. It was difficult to find the immortal kingdom hidden in the void crack. However, the 2 of them had been killed. Through their auras, they could find the location of their immortal kingdom. This was the effect of the array formation. Wang Xian had used the array formation to give them a rough location: 5 immortal king corpses, 2 immortal kingdoms, and thousands of eternal kingdoms. The Dragon Palace's strength this time will receive a huge boost. Wang Xian smiled. This time, Ao Crab's devouring dragon race would receive a huge boost. With the least estimation, the peak combat strength of the Divine Lord of the Dragon Palace could reach up to 100. Including himself, the combat strength of the Divine Lord could reach 13. All members of the Dragon Palace, prepare to upgrade. Ao Crab, prepare to step into the immortal Divine Lord realm. Wang Xian growled in a low voice, his voice reverberating throughout the entire Dragon Palace. This is bad, Chairman. Something bad has happened to the 3 chief executives of our Heaven Beast Group who are heading to the Tianzi continent. At this moment, on a planet far away, the entire planet was dominated by technology, and many shiny metal buildings rose into the sky. In the sky, there were even many floating metal buildings, and the entire world was filled with fantasy. And in a room on top of a huge steel beast that was more than 100 kilometers in size. The steel beast, a true giant beast, had the appearance of a terrifying and ferocious space beast, and from afar, it was terrifying. This was a terrifying building made of metal, and it was also the lair of the Heavenly Beast Corporation. The Heavenly Beast Corporation was considered a third-rate force in this region. However, even if it was a fourth or fifth-rate force, it was still one of the top 100 billion planets in this region. Inside the head of the steel behemoth, an old man entered a chairman's office to report in a panic.
Oh,
There was a huge difference between the inside and the outside of the giant beast. The incomparably precious divine grass and divine tree were planted inside. An old man was sitting on a beast bone chair. When he heard his subordinate's report, his expression changed slightly and he immediately stood up. What's going on? What's the problem over at the Tianzi continent? The old man stood up and asked with a somewhat ugly expression. A godly monarch was called the chairman. Such a thing was absolutely strange on Earth in the past, but it was not rare in this resplendent land. The resplendent land created many kinds of civilizations. The person in charge of contacting the three bosses had no contact for a long time, so they went to the Heaven Lake continent to investigate. In the end, they received news that the three bosses were killed. Chapter 2417. 2417 2417 took revenge. 3 bosses were killed. A puny Heavenly Lake continent has at most 5 undying godly monarchs. How can Chief Liu and the rest be killed? Could it be a scheme of the Heavenly Lake continent, purposely luring them over to kill them? Do they dare? In front of the undying godly monarch Beast Bones, the chairman of the Heavenly Beast Corporation stood there with a gloomy expression, growling in a low voice. A thick killing intent surged from his body. 3 undying god kings had fallen. This was a huge blow to their entire Heaven Beast Corporation. Their entire corporation only had a dozen undying god kings. Every god king had spent a huge amount of resources to nurture. Boss, this is a video from the Tianzi continent's AI. The subordinate who came to report also handed over a player with an ugly expression. The chairman of the Heavenly Beast Corporation received it and immediately opened it. When he saw the scene in the video, his face revealed an extremely angry expression. Pang! His palm slammed heavily on the table. Damn it! He could not help but let out an angry roar. His gaze was fixed on the 7 figures in the video. His expression was extremely ugly. Buzz! He tapped on the AI in his hand, and the figures instantly disappeared. Chairman, why did you summon us here in such a hurry? Soon, 5 figures walked into a luxurious room located in the giant steel beast and said to the old man, Old Liu and the other 2 who went to the Tianzi continent have fallen. The chairman of the Heavenly Beast Group said with a gloomy face. What? The 5 of them paused and looked shocked. How is this possible? Old Liu and the others? A middle-aged man opened his eyes wide. Before he could say anything, the chairman of the Heaven Beast Corporation immediately played the video on the brain of the Heaven Lake continent. The video was recorded from their appearance until they were killed in more than 5 minutes. The Sky God Emperor and Sword God Emperor from the Tianzi continent do not know the strength of their opponents at all, resulting in Old Liu and the others dying. The chairman of the Heaven Beast Corporation roared softly. If those 2 were still alive, he would definitely not let them off. What a terrifying assassination. Is this the array formation? It can actually trap an undying God Emperor. This kind of array formation is something only the Magus Beast Pavilion has. The 5 looked at the footage, their faces filled with seriousness. Chairman, even though they are only undying level 1, there are a total of 7 of them, along with 2 peculiar assassins. They aren't easy to deal with. An old man sat down slowly, his expression changing as he spoke. They aren't easy to deal with. Even if we use all of our strength, it's not easy to destroy them all. A person beside him nodded in agreement. The 7 undying godly monarchs, even if they were only at the 1st rank, were still a considerable force. Their Heavenly Beast Corporation's strength was much stronger than this force, but they were not confident in completely annihilating them. Undying godly monarchs were very difficult to kill, especially since the enemy had 2 strange assassins. If they could not wipe out the enemy in one fell swoop, they would be in big trouble in the future, especially those assassins. If they were to deal with the Heavenly Beast Corporation in the future, the Heavenly Beast Corporation would be in big trouble. It was obviously impossible to send people to attack them directly. However, how could the Heavenly Beast Corporation be willing to let the 3 godly monarchs of the Heavenly Beast Corporation die there? The entire Heavenly Beast Corporation only had 18 godly monarchs, and they had lost 1/6 of them. Chairman, is there any information on the Tianzi continent? An elder asked. This can connect to the Tianzi continent's AI. The chairman of the Heaven Beast group threw a AI over, frowning slightly. For a moment, the entire room fell silent. Everyone looked at the information the elder was searching for. The chances of revenge aren't high. If we fight them to the death, the other two mysterious assassins are a huge problem. The 7 undying godly monarchs are a little troublesome. However, this matter cannot be settled so easily. We can only take some revenge. It's best not to let the other side attack us. The old man controlling the AI said as he looked at the information about the Tianzi continent. Continue. The chairman of the Heaven Beast group gestured to him. The Dragon Palace that killed Chief Liu and the other two will announce its establishment 3 days later. At that time, all the powers and warriors of the Tianzi continent will probably head over. At that time, we will know where the other side's nest is. However, that doesn't mean that their undying country is there. According to the information in their AI, there are 15 to 16 undying emperor sea monsters in their ocean, and there might even be undying level 2 beings amongst them. However, some of them don't like the living environment above and haven't attacked humans. However, the Dragon Palace is built in the underground ocean. This is an opportunity. We can attract the undying sea monsters to attack the Dragon Palace. As the old man spoke, he looked at the surrounding people and revealed his plan. More than 10 undying sea monsters attacking them. We can't destroy them. A bald old man frowned. Don't even think about completely destroying them. The ideal is for them to lose a few undying kings. The best is for the 2 mysterious assassins to die. As long as they die, our Heavenly Beast group can attack them directly. We are not afraid of them taking revenge. The elder immediately said. The chances of exterminating the other party are very small. Old Hong's method is feasible, but we have to be prepared. If the other party really suffers heavy losses, we can directly attack. By making the continent's underground sea undying godly monarch sea monster attack, we can use the ownerless law fragments to attract it. Furthermore, the most important thing is to rely on the Sky Valley King Beast to persuade the desolate beasts to attack. Those who dare to kill our Heaven Beast Corporation will have to pay a heavy price. If we can't destroy them this time, there will be a next time. The chairman of the Heaven Beast Corporation immediately decided as he roared with a grim expression. There's no need to rush to deal with such enemies. They are weaker than us to begin with. If we can't find an opportunity in 10 years, then let's wait 100 years. One day, we will be able to completely destroy them. The other 5 nodded coldly. If not for the fear of affecting the business of the Heaven Beast Corporation, they would not be so apprehensive. But even so, the other party had to pay a heavy price. For this, they did not hesitate to use their strongest battle pet of the Heaven Beast Corporation, the Sky Valley King Beast. The Sky Valley King Beast was a level 2 undying God King battle pet. It was also the strongest battle pet of their Heaven Beast Corporation. Desolate beasts could communicate with each other easily. They were confident that they could make all the immortal God King sea monsters in the underground sea attack. After all, the Dragon Palace's territory was in the underground sea. If it was on land, this method would not work. Leave this matter to Chief Bei. The chairman of the Heaven Beast Corporation looked at the oldest elder and said, the Heavenly Beast Corporation's Northern Demon Life, the second strongest person in the Heavenly Beast Corporation, was also the owner of the Sky Valley King Beast. He would handle this matter and there wouldn't be any problems. Chapter 24:18. 24:18 Dragon Palace is established. Sea Monsters Attack 1. The Dragon Palace will open in 3 days. AO Crab and the rest should be able to complete the upgrade. In the Dragon King's Hall of the Underground Sea Dragon Palace, Wang Xian sat on the dragon throne and looked at the members of the Dragon Palace in front of him. Behind him, there were more than 20 fruits on the ancestral tree. Each of them contained a magical luster. Dragon King, it is estimated that there will be many people who will come and present gifts. At least 100,000 people. We have already arranged a banquet at the east gate of the Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Gui said from below. Since they had invited some powerhouses from the Tianzi continent, they naturally had to be prepared. This was also to pave the way for the Fire Hammer clan to sell their weapons in the future. Yes, that's fine. In addition, Ao Chitian and Ao Chi, you guys lead the members of the Dragon Palace to clear the sea monsters in the surroundings. This is to prevent the sea monsters from coming and disturbing us. Wang Xian nodded and ordered Ao Chitian and the rest. It's the Dragon King. Ao Chitian and the rest nodded immediately and led the members of the Dragon Palace to fly to the surrounding. After Ao Crab and the rest upgrade, they can clear out the sea monsters in the underground sea. If they can devour all the immortal king-level sea monsters in the underground sea, their levels can be upgraded by 1 level. As Wang Xian spoke, he looked at the dragon transformation pool behind him. Once the underground sea was taken care of, the Dragon Palace would enter this bright starry sky. They would be competing with the demons, humans, desolate beasts, and space beasts as well as the robot. I heard that the Dragon King has built a powerful base in the underground sea. This is simply too powerful. We are afraid of the sea monsters attacking us on land, but the Dragon King has placed the Dragon Palace in the underground sea. Ha ha ha, the Dragon Palace has 7 undying emperors. The Dragon Palace has the ability. This time when the palace opens, I'll follow my grandfather to take a look. I'll take photos of you. I've never even been to the 5th level of the underground sea. I really want to take a look. The Dragon Palace's power is too strong. I heard that the Dragon Palace is at the lowest level of the underground sea in front of the wall of protection, over 100 million kilometers below the sea. While the members of the Dragon Palace were preparing for the event 3 days later, discussions about the Dragon Palace were going on in the brain of the Tianzi continent. The battle yesterday had made the entire Tianzi continent boil. Everyone was full of respect for the Dragon King. Everyone was curious about the Dragon Palace and wanted to go there to have a look. However, many people were not qualified to go there. The Dragon Palace would be opened 3 days later. Only a Master God Realm expert or a Master God Realm expert would be qualified to go there. Everyone could also predict that those who were qualified to go to the Tianzi continent would go there to express their goodwill. After all, the Dragon Palace was now the most powerful force in the entire Tianzi continent. Even now, the people from the mysterious Sky Territory and the Land of Battle Techniques were not a match for the Dragon Palace. Time passed very quickly. While the entire Tianzi continent was talking about the Dragon Palace, an old man stood on a giant beast in the sky above the Tianzi continent and stepped into the Tianzi continent's territory. Time is of the essence. Tianji, look for the aura of a similar species. The old man held a brain and patted the Tianji king beast's body. The person who came was naturally someone from the Heaven Beast Corporation. 1 man and 1 beast, they were both level 2 immortal king existences. Roar roar. The Tianji king beast let out a low roar. The underground sea monsters were desolate beasts. They could sense each other when they were of the same species. Especially when they were close, they could sense the other party's territory. The desolate beast's domain awareness was very strong. The Sky Valley King beast was a little bloated. It was about 3,000 meters long. It shook its body and immediately flew into the underground sea. The Tianzi continent's AI recorded the general location of the 4 undying God King sea monsters. As long as we find them, with Sky Valley's ability, we can find the other desolate beasts. As for how many we can attract, we aren't sure. However, the Dragon Palace will definitely pay the price. Ch, this is just the beginning. The old man watched as the Tianji King beast entered the ocean. His body moved and he flew towards the wall of protection. He had to determine the exact location of the Dragon Palace in the ocean before the wall of protection. Otherwise, if he didn't know the exact location, the sea monsters wouldn't know where to attack. Roar. Time passed slowly. In the ocean of the underground sea, a giant bloated beast came to a spot in the underground sea and let out a low roar. 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 Soon, a horrifying monster that was as huge as a sea python came out of the seaweed and stuck out its ferocious head. Roar. Roar. The king of Sky Valley stared at the sea monster in front of him and let out a low roar again. Roar. The sea monster that looked like a sea python responded. The 2 terrifying existences were talking slowly in this way. Soon, the sea python followed the bloated giant beast and flew in another direction. Why are there so many sea monsters in our area today? 2 days later, Ao Yasha and the others from the Dragon Palace were patrolling the area within tens of millions of kilometers. What surprised them was that today, the sea monsters in the vicinity suddenly increase. One had to know that in the past 2 days, Leader Ao and the others had led the Thunder Division to kill all the sea monsters in the vicinity, and today, there were so many more, and there was even a pinnacle godlord. It was a huge surprise. However, even though it was a surprise, Ao Yaksha and the others swiftly killed the sea monsters they encountered. A radius of over 1,000 kilometers. Is this a god emperor's undying country? Where are the other 6 hidden? Hehe, the Dragon Palace has announced the establishment of the underground sea. Then I would like to see this place destroyed by the desolate beasts that day. It's really interesting. The corners of his mouth curled up. Chief Bey, how's it going? At this time, 5 silhouettes slowly appeared behind him. Are they here? It's done. The Tianjiu King Beast has persuaded all the undying sea monsters, a total of 15 undying level 2. Originally many undying sea monsters didn't want to invade humans, but the other side had dug their own grave and built their nest in the underground sea, offending all the sea monsters. This place will no longer exist tomorrow. The old Chief Bey saw the silhouette behind him and smiled as he said, "If we are lucky tomorrow, we can kill them all." An old man said coldly, "Looking at the situation tomorrow, it's mainly those 2 strange assassins. If we are 100% sure that we can kill them, we can take action. Otherwise, try not to take action." Chief Bey said to the others, "It's Chief Bey. We know what to do." The rest of them nodded and looked at the majestic dragon palace at the bottom of the sea with twinkling eyes. In their eyes, this vast dragon palace was nothing but a ruin. Buzz. The 6 of them swept their gaze down and slowly disappeared from the spot. Everything depended on tomorrow. Dragon King, Ao Crab and the rest have advanced. At this time, in the dragon palace below, Prime Minister Gui reported to Wang Xian with a face full of surprise. Chapter 2419. 2419 Dragon Palace is established. Sea monsters attack too. On the 7th day of the catastrophe, there were no clouds in the sky above the ocean. The sunlight shone on the surface of the ocean, making the entire surface of the ocean look sparkling. I wonder what the Dragon Palace of the Dragon King looks like. The Dragon King and the others are also very powerful since they dared to put the Dragon Palace in the ocean in front of our wall of protection. You should know that the sea monsters will invade from here every time there is a catastrophe, and the Dragon Palace will definitely bear the brunt of it. If the Dragon Palace can really calm down the underground ocean, that would be great. We can enter the underground ocean to play. On the wall of protection, over 100,000 people gathered. Most of them were middle-aged and old. Some of the youths beside the middle-aged man were filled with excitement. Going to the residence of an undying god emperor, this was a very exciting thing. If I had known earlier, I would have chased after the Dragon King. What if I caught up with him? Sob sob sob, I feel like I missed my second life. Don't even think about it. When I sent a private message to the Dragon King didn't reply to me. It was too difficult for me. Wow. You actually sent a private message to the Dragon King. Me. At the mysterious Sky Territory's expert seats, 50 to 60 women gathered together, their eyes filled with disappointment and excitement as they said, "Hee." An old woman shook her head with a smile when she heard the girl's word. Back then, the old woman had led a group of girls to introduce them to the former Dragon King, but the girls were still unwilling. Now, they regretted it. Who would have thought that the young man from the mysterious Sky Territory, who had joined them back then, was now stronger and more powerful than the mysterious Sky Territory? All the experts from our Tianzi continent are here. Teacher has a lot of face. Not far from them, all the girls from the mysterious Sky Academy's freshman class 1 looked around with slight pride on their faces. Most of them were not qualified to come, but because they were the students of the Dragon King, just this identity was enough. Moreover, the Dragon King also asked them to come, which made the girls very proud. Someone is coming from the ocean ahead. At this moment, hundreds of figures flew toward them. They held long halberds in their hands, and their faces were full of dignity. "Everyone, we are the Dragon Defense Department of the Dragon Palace. Please follow us." Ao Yecha glanced at all of them and said, "Okay, let's go." Xian Tianzi and Mo Hen nodded at the front and followed behind them. Buzz. Hundreds of God Lord level sea taming Yaksha waved their energy and covered everyone, flying toward the depths of the underground sea. 3 peak God Lord level experts, and 3 peak godlord level experts from the Dragon Palace. Some experts felt their strength and were slightly shocked. They had never seen these peak godlords before. In other words, the Dragon Palace was much stronger than they had imagined. The distance of more than 100 million kilometers was not very close. They teleported several times and arrived above the Dragon Palace 10 minutes later. Is this the deepest part of the underground sea? Is the huge building that is emitting 7-colored radiance like it is in a dream the Dragon Palace? Amazing. There is a towering Dragon Palace that is thousands of kilometers wide at the bottom of the underground sea. Everyone looked at the Dragon Palace below with shock on their faces. It was the first time that many Eternal Lord-level experts had come to the deepest part of the underground sea. Now that the Dragon Palace had directly built their base here, one could imagine how powerful they were. Welcome to the Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Gui came up to them with a smile on his face and gestured to them. Wang Xian stood at the entrance of the east gate of the Dragon Gate and looked at the group of people who had arrived with a smile on his face. Haha, my young friend Wang Xian, this is really shocking. In just 3 days, you actually built such a huge base at the bottom of the underground sea. Jean-Fa Mohen looked at Wang Xian and laughed out loud. I just moved the other palaces here. Everyone, please come in. Wang Xian shook his head and gestured for them to enter the Dragon Palace. All right. Xian Tianzi's face was full of smiles as he laughed out loud and walked into the Dragon Palace. What a rich spiritual energy. This is more than 10 times more powerful than the spirit gathering formation set up by our ancestor. When everyone entered the Dragon Palace, their faces were filled with awe and shock. They looked at the huge buildings in front of them and felt the extremely dense spiritual energy. Their eyes were wide open. Everyone, this way please. Wang Xian walked in front and gestured to them with a smile on his face. What a generous gesture. It was not rare to see a palace building with a radius of more than 1,000 kilometers. However, Xian Tianzi and Mo Hen were shocked by the rich spiritual energy in it. Looks like little friend Wang Xian must have received the inheritance of the Celestial Emperor. Xian Tianzi thought to himself, everyone, this is a simple place. Please feel free to take a seat. Wang Xian brought them to a place to receive guests. This place had just been built not long ago and would be used to receive guests in the future. Dragon King, you don't have to be so polite. It's our honor to be here. That's right, that's right. It's our honor to be here. Everyone smiled as they spoke. The reason why we invited the powerhouses from the Tianzi continent here today is firstly to get to know each other. Secondly, it's mainly for the sake of our Dragon Palace. Our Dragon Palace is preparing to set up a weapons shop in the Tianzi continent in the future. Please take good care of us. Also, we will prepare some weapons this time. If anyone is interested, we will sell them at 90% of the market price. Also, regarding the Dragon Palace's war pets, our Dragon Palace will provide a large number of god-level war pets in the future. We hope that you will take good care of them too. Wang Xian exchanged a few simple words with the people from the Tianzi continent before he ordered the food. All the meat from the sea monster at the peak of the Divine Lord realm was extremely beneficial to ordinary Divine Lord expert. Following that, the members of the Fire Hammer clan brought over 1,000 weapons. Now that the Fire Hammer clan had mastered the array formation imparted by the Heaven formation, they had obtained a huge improvement in the aspect of crafting weapon. The weapons that were produced now were rare treasures for the Eternal Divine Lord. Over 1,000 weapons were brought over, causing quite a stir. This caused quite a few experts to be envious. A good weapon was definitely the second life of a cultivator. The expensive peak stage Godlord sea monster meat could be casually eaten, and weapons could be purchased one by one. It could be said that it was extremely harmonious. Many people found it hard to imagine that one day they would be so carefree at the bottom of the underground sea. This was the lifelong dream of many seniors. Hihi, it's quite lively. I hope it will be like this next time. They will probably feel despair next. Ha ha ha. While the people in the Dragon Palace were talking and smiling, 6 figures were flashing in the sky. Terrifying sea monsters were charging toward them from all sides of the Dragon Palace. Chapter 24:20. 24 2024 20 Dragon Palace established. Sea Monster Attack 3. Senior Shen Tianzi, this fruit is a gift to you. Thank you for taking care of me during this period of time. In the underground Sea Dragon Palace, Wang Xian and Shen Tianzi were sitting at the front with their battle techniques. Mo Hen. Wang Xian took out the fruit and handed it to Shen Tianzi with a smile on his face. During this period of time, Wang Xian had a lot of trust in Shen Tianzi's character. Now, he could see why the Celestial the Arch of Heaven's formation didn't take Shen Tianzi as his disciple back then. His talent was too bad. Of course, this was from the perspective of Wang Xian and the Celestial the Arch of Heaven's formation. Previously, Wang Xian had given Shen Tianzi quite a number of array formations. These array formations were all recorded by the Celestial the Arch of Heaven's formation. However, he was still unable to break through the shackles and reach Immortal King level 2. This showed that his talent was up to par. If he consumed the normal embryo fruit, he could reach the level of a Grand Magus and stabilize the pinnacle of the universe. Of course, this also depended on his own luck. Shen Tianzi was slightly shocked when he saw the fruit that Wang Xian handed over. As he felt the terrifying energy from the fruit, his eyes widened slightly. Gulp. What kind of fruit is this? Why do I feel like my mind is 10 times clearer when I smell it? On one side of the position, the War Method ink mark 2 eyes light of stare. Shen Tianzi's face is also full of shock, lips slightly move. Reporting Dragon King, a large number of sea monsters are attacking from all sides of our Dragon Palace. At this time, Aochi de Aochi their figure very fly over, loudly roar way. Huh! Wang Xian slightly stunned, all the people around also stunned, hurriedly stand up. Roar roar roar. Roar roar roar. Roar roar roar. At this moment, terrifying roars came from all directions. Boom boom boom. In the next moment, everyone could feel waves of terrifying water currents surging towards them. Water currents. It was extremely difficult for the seawater to surge at the bottom of the sea that was hundreds of millions of kilometers deep. Even the movement of the Eternal Lord below level 3 was hindered here. It was unbelievable that the seawater was surging. Oh no, what kind of sea monster dares to attack us? The Dragon Palace has 7 immortal kings. At this moment, everyone's expression changed drastically as they looked around in shock. Wang Xian frowned slightly as well. He waved his arm towards the sky. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In an instant, the scouting images of the Dragon Palace appeared in front of them. There were a total of 5 images. They were the 4 sides and the aerial view. Hiss, how can there be so many sea monsters? Oh my god, look at the position at the front. What is that? There are so many immortal God King sea monsters. When the images appeared in front of everyone, the faces of the experts were filled with shock. Especially the young men and women, their faces were all pale. Just looking at the images, they felt a strong suffocating feeling. Shit, that's the blue python, that's the crack desolate fish, that's the dock beast, and that 2-headed god raccoon. That 2-headed god raccoon is most likely an undying level 2 existent. Mo Hen, who was sitting at the side, suddenly stood up, his face filled with shock as he roared in a low voice. A total of 16 undying God King sea monsters. There's a high possibility that there's an undying God King level 2. Little friend Wang Xian, this is bad. When Shen Tianzi saw this scene, his face instantly turned ugly as he roared in a low voice. Roar roar roar. Ka. The next moment, the roar continued. A solid law barrier surrounded the entire Dragon Palace. This is. Everyone's expression changed when they saw the terrifying law space. This law space could trap an eternal God Lord and prevent him from being teleported to his own God country. Even against a God Emperor of the same level, it could affect him a little. Over 10 undying emperors, it's over, we have to escape immediately. Some of them saw the scene and heard Shen Tianzi and the others, their foreheads were filled with cold sweat. Even many of the eternal God Masters were filled with fear. Dragon King, we have to leave as soon as possible. Otherwise we'll be in trouble. Battle technique Mo Hen said solemnly. If they were to evacuate now, they might have to sacrifice some of them. Why are all the monsters in the underground sea gathered here? Some of the godly king sea monsters never attack humans. Xian Tianzi looked at the scene and was prepared to think about how to escape. 16 of them. Are all the sea monsters in the entire underground sea here? Wang Xian looked at the scene and his eyes sparkled. Dragon King, get ready to escape now. Otherwise. Mo Hen continued to speak to him anxiously. There's no rush. Before he could speak, Wang Xian interrupted him directly with a smile on his face. All members of the Dragon Palace, get ready, he shouted softly, and his voice spread throughout the entire Dragon Palace. The disciples of the Dragon Palace are here. The replies came from the 4 city gates immediately. At this moment, Prime Minister Gui had already made all the preparations. Face the enemy. Wang Xian ordered loudly. It's the Dragon King. The members of the 4 Dragon Palaces responded loudly immediately. All the disciples of the Dragon Palace, prepare for battle. Kill. Prime Minister Gui roared furiously. What? The Dragon Palace is actually preparing to face the enemy. This. The Dragon Palace is not a match for so many sea monsters. Oh no, the Dragon King is too rash. With so many sea monsters attacking, can they withstand it? Everyone from the Tianzi continent was stunned when they heard Wang Xian's order. Following which, their expressions turned extremely ugly. There were a total of 16 undying God King sea monsters. How could they withstand it? However, just as they were conversing, the law space barrier had already arrived above them, enveloping everyone within. No one below undying God King could escape. Seeing this scene, everyone's faces turned even paler. We can only act now, everyone prepare to face the enemy. Xian Tianzi's expression changed slightly as he immediately roared. Yes. Everyone's faces revealed bitter smiles. Who would have thought that they would encounter such a thing here in the Dragon King Dragon Palace? Could it be that the Dragon Palace was about to be destroyed the moment it announced its establishment? Senior Xian Tianzi, Senior Mo Hen, don't be anxious. Everyone, don't panic. Just sit here and wait. Wang Xian saw the panic on everyone's faces and a smile appeared on his face. He immediately comforted them. After he finished speaking, he looked straight at the scene in front of him. In the scene, Ao Crab was standing quietly in front of the east gate of the Dragon Palace. He was the only one there. And in front of him was the side with the highest number of sea monsters. The leader was a 2-headed divine raccoon that seemed to be an immortal king level 2. There were 4 immortal king level sea monsters around it. As for the eternal god lord level sea monsters, there were countless of them. Chapter 24-21. 24-21 Dragon Palace, Sea Monster Attack 4. At the east gate of the Dragon Palace, Ao Crab was floating in front of the gate alone. At the west gate, Ao Chitian was leading a battle group of the Dragon Palace. It was not the entire battle group of the Demon Combat Division. There were the Saturn Turtle with the strongest defense, the Heavenly Eye Arrow Division with the strongest long-range attack, the Phoenix Dragon of the Mount Division, and the supporting Dolphin Clan. At the south gate, Ao Xingmu was the leader, the Saturn Turtle Dragon, the Sky Eye Arrow Division, the Phoenix Dragon, the Starwood Dragon, and the support Dolphin. At the north gate, there were more sea monsters. With Ao Qi and Mu Zi Sen as the leaders, the Dragon Palace's various troops were mixed in. As for Strange Demon, he was completely hidden in the void. Such a formation was also the perfect battle formation of the Dragon Palace. Right now, excluding him, the Dragon Palace had a total of 12 undyings. Ao he alone had 5 undyings at the east gate. The rest, 11 Dragon Palace undyings, were one-on-one. Under such circumstances, the pressure on the Dragon Palace wasn't too great. And right now, the Dragon Palace had over 100 pinnacle godlords. Of course, the strongest foundation of the Dragon Palace was still Ao he. Ao he had truly stepped into the Immortal King level. He could rival or even defeat a level 3 Immortal King level sea monster. Although Ao he was defending the East Gate alone, it would not take long for him to finish the battle here. Everyone was stunned when they saw Wang Xian's relaxed expression. If they were not in a hurry at this critical moment, when would they be? My young friend Wang Xian, there are more than a dozen immortal godly monarchs in your Dragon Palace. At this moment, Xian Tianzi, who had been staring at the scene in front of him, suddenly asked with his eyes wide open. Just from the scene, he could feel the powerful auras of the leaders of the Dragon Palace. That kind of arrogance and fearlessness, the fighting spirit when facing the immortal godly monarchs and sea monsters, was definitely not something that the eternal godly monarchs could unleash. Let's see. Wang Xian smiled and gestured for them to continue watching. What? The Dragon King is confident in dealing with these sea monsters? There are more than a dozen immortal god kings in the Dragon Palace. Wasn't it the full strength of the Dragon Palace last time? When the people from the Tianzi continent heard Wang Xian's words, their faces were filled with shock. The next moment, everyone stared at the 5 images in the sky in front of them. Roar, roar, roar. In front of the 4 dragon gates, the roars and aura of the sea monsters still stifled everyone. However, they did not feel any fear from the experts from the Dragon Palace. There were not many members from the Dragon Palace. There were only a few 100,000 of them, but each of them exuded an invincible aura. Roar. Just when all the sea monsters were about 200 kilometers away from the Dragon Palace, at the east gate of the Dragon Palace, the desolate figure in the image suddenly charged forward at a terrifying speed. At the same time, his body underwent a terrifying transformation. He had a ferocious and terrifying dragon head and 18 terrifying claws. His body was 7 to 8,000 meters long, and he was emitting a terrifying demonic might. Ao Crab directly attacked the endless sea monsters at the east gate. Hiss. When everyone saw Ao Crab's body size and his indomitable aura, their faces changed greatly. However, what happened next shocked them even more. The 18 claws were instantly covered by a resplendent law. Dark yellow law energy wrapped around the claws, causing them to grow several hundred kilometers in length. They looked like a centipede with huge claws. The terrifying 18 claws of Ao Crab directly tore towards the entire sea monster army. Howl, howl, howl. The aggressive sea monster army that was giving off monstrous amounts of devil energy looked at the incoming Ao Crab, feeling its terrifying energy. Many sea monsters were stunned. Even the 5 undying sea monsters at the front shook their bodies in fear. However, at the next moment, Ao Crab's claws attacked. The 5 undying sea monsters let out a howl. The terrifying attack immediately met it. Peng, peng, peng. In the next moment, a terrifying scene appeared. Of the 5 attacking sea monsters, 3 of them were instantly pierced through, another was turned into blood mist. Even the 2-headed god raccoon that looked like an undying level 2 was sent flying. Behind, within a 50,000 kilometers radius, all the sea monsters were attacked. Over 10 billion sea monsters were instantly killed. The difference was huge. Howl, howl, howl. The sea monsters at the east gate almost wet their pants, especially the 5 undying sea monsters. They immediately tried to escape in fear. Howl, howl. However, in the next moment, before an undying sea monster could escape, a claw grabbed it. A terrifying resplendent law rushed into the sea monster's mind. Peng. Its life force swiftly vanished. The other 4 undyings immediately returned to their undying countries in fear. Where they were earlier, a black and white shadow flashed past. Some blood was collected. Howl, howl, howl. The sea monsters that were still alive almost went crazy, wishing they had legs and wings all over their bodies. They fled at an even more terrifying speed. One could even see some sea monsters spitting out a yellow liquid. They were truly scared to death. Ao Crab's attack ended in less than 2 seconds. 1 undying sea monster was killed, the other 4 escaped heavily injured. In just 2 seconds. Rumble. So terrifying, so strong. At this moment, everyone in the Tianzi continent within the Dragon Palace trembled violently when they saw this scene. They couldn't help but swallow their saliva. In a few seconds, all the sea monsters in the east were escaping. This terrifying attack, that incomparably huge creature, was simply shocking. This is your underling Dragon King. Battle technique. Mo Hen was completely stunned. Undying God King level 3 warrior. Xian Tianzi softly spat out these words, his face filled with shock. Undying God King level 3. Star Source planet strength was very strong. Even the strongest overlord was only at Undying God King level 3. With such strength, in this huge region, it was already considered a 4th or 5th tier region. Even amongst the hundreds of thousands of nearby planets, it could be ranked within. Now, There was actually such an expert in the Dragon Palace. In addition to the other godly monarchs, it meant that the Dragon Palace was not much weaker than the Overlord Sec. In that case, the Dragon Palace was also equivalent to a fourth or fifth-rate force in this greater world. This was too terrifying. Just when everyone thought that the Dragon Palace was likely to be destroyed today, the Dragon Palace actually erupted with such terrifying strength. Terrifying. What? How? How is this possible? However, at this moment, about 1,000 kilometers above the Dragon Palace, the six figures couldn't help but tremble when they saw the scene at the East Gate. Their hidden figures were instantly revealed. Chapter 2422. 2422 2422, Calming the Underground C1. Undying God King Level 3, this faction even has an Undying God King Level 3 warrior, damn it, damn it. In the sky above the underground Sea Dragon Palace, the Heaven Beast Organization's people looked towards the East Gate with extremely ugly expressions, their expressions sinking. Undying God King Level 3, their chairman was only at this level. The mission has failed, we cannot become enemies with this Dragon Palace, otherwise the losses will be huge. Director Bay, who was in the lead, said with a gloomy face. They couldn't take the opportunity to attack now. Even if they did, they would be courting death. Moreover, they would bring great trouble and even disaster to the Heavenly Beast Corporation. Hey! Look, there's someone up there. In the Dragon Palace, a young man suddenly pointed at an image in the center and said in surprise. In that image, due to the fluctuation of the six people from the Heaven Beast Corporation, their figures were clearly detected by the detection formation of the Dragon Palace. There are really people. Who are they? Some people looked over and their faces were filled with surprise. Why would someone suddenly appear in the sky above the Dragon Palace at this time? Who were they? Aohe, lock onto the six people in the sky and attack them immediately. When the young man noticed them, Wang Xian had already noticed the six figures that had suddenly appeared. These six figures were obviously hiding in that place. Due to special circumstances, their figures were revealed. With the detection methods of the Dragon Palace, unless the opponent was an immortal king-level powerhouse, they would be able to detect them. Could it be that the invasion of the underground sea monsters has something to do with them? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows as his eyes sparkled. Roar! Roar! Upon hearing Wang Xian's order, Ao Crab did not hesitate at all. He flew towards the top of the Dragon Palace at a terrifying speed. His cold gaze locked onto the six figures above him as his terrifying claws slashed towards them. With Ao Crab's current speed, he arrived in front of them in less than a second. Not good, we've been discovered. Run, run now. An old man saw Ao Crab's attack and his expression changed drastically. He immediately roared. The Tiangu King Beast is still in the north. Chief Bei's expression changed slightly as he cried out in alarm. Chief Bei, the Tiangu King Beast knows to run. A middle-aged man hurriedly roared and his figure instantly disappeared. Chief Bei gritted his teeth. Sensing Ao Crab's terrifying aura, his body moved and instantly disappeared from the spot. When Ao Crab rushed over, the six figures had already disappeared. Roar! At this moment, a terrifying roar came from the north. Ao Chi's figure flew backward instantly. Hundreds of members of the Dragon Palace were instantly killed. Dragon King, the sea monster at the North Gate, has the strength of a level 2 immortal king. Request for reinforcements. Muzasan was shocked when he saw this scene. He immediately shouted at Wang Xian. Huh! In the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian's expression changed when he saw the scene. What kind of sea monster is that? There doesn't seem to be such a sea monster in the underground sea. Something's wrong. This sea monster doesn't seem to be an underground sea monster from our Tianzi continent. It doesn't have the characteristics of a marine creature. At the side, Xian Tianzi and Mo Hen looked at the powerful desolate beast at the North Gate with a puzzled expression. They had lived in the Tianzi continent for more than 10 years, so they had some understanding of the underground sea monster. It's indeed not an aquatic creature. Wang Xian stared at it. A hint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. His body moved and he instantly teleported in the direction of the North Gate. Ao Crab, you must stop that level 2 immortal king level desolate beast. Wang Xian growled and flew out of the north gate. In the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian could reach any place in an instant. Therefore, it did not take him any time to travel from the east gate to the north gate. Buzz! Wang Xian flew out of the north gate. With a wave of his arm, the 5 elements millstone flew straight up. Currently, there were 5 of his clones hidden in the 5 elements millstone. Each of his clones had the strength of a peak stage god lord. On top of that, Wang Xian had set up a black hole space-disturbing formation. This black hole space-disturbing formation could trap a level 1 immortal king. It would only have a slight effect on a level 2 immortal king. A level 2 immortal king could defeat it in an instant. However, what Wang Xian wanted was less than a second. Buzz! A radius of 20,000 kilometers was instantly covered by the black hole disturbance formation. At this moment, Ao Crab rushed over and attacked the Tiangu King Beast directly. Roar, roar, roar! The Tiangu King Beast felt the terrifying pressure from Ao Crab and a hint of fear appeared in its eyes. He didn't hesitate, preparing to flee back to his undying country. Wang! His silhouette was slightly blurry, however he didn't disappear instantly. Howl! The Tiangu Beast roared madly. The black hole disturbance formation actually began to crack. However at this time, his attack had already arrived. The terrifying 18 claws, the savage and terrifying dragon head, they all headed straight for the Tiangu Beast. The King of Sky Valley revealed a look of fear in his eyes. He didn't dare to stand still and hurriedly fled to the back. However, his escape didn't allow him to return to his immortal deity empire in an instant. When Wang Xian saw this scene, he immediately set up the formation and reinforced the black hole disturbance formation once again. Among all the formations, Wang Xian was the most familiar with this formation. He only reinforced it for less than a second. Roar! Bang! Ao Crab was exceptionally terrifying when he unleashed his full strength. He had terrifying claws, a ferocious dragon head, and a tail with sharp thorns and dragon scales. One strike landed on the body of the King of Tiangu, causing it to be severely injured instantly. The King of Tiangu, who was filled with raging flames, attacked rapidly one after another. At this moment, the King of Tiangu was filled with fear. The black hole disturbing array didn't allow it to escape immediately, even though it could only stop it for a second. However, in that 1 second, it was enough for Aohe to kill it. Aohe wasn't an ordinary undying level 3, he was an existence close to being able to kill an undying level 3. With such a huge difference, the Tiangu King Beast had no room to fight back. Bang, bang, bang! Roar, roar, roar! Facing Ao Crab's terrifying attack, the bloated King of Sky Valley was bleeding all over his body. He let out a desperate roar. Humph! This guy is definitely not an underground sea monster. He should be with that group of people. It seems that the sea monster invasion this time is not so simple. However, this time, this level 2 immortal king battle pet will stay here. Wang Xian looked at the Sky Valley King Beast in front of him and snorted coldly. Ao, 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 ao. Faced with Ao Crab's continuous attacks, the Sky Valley King Beast let out a desperate roar. It never expected that it would die here and its master would not come to save it. If its master did not escape and destroyed that strange formation in one strike, the Sky Valley King Beast would not have died here. Chapter 24-23 24-23 2423 Flat Roof 2. Peng! The huge body of the Tiangu Emperor Beast landed heavily on the ocean floor, making a muffled sound. At this time, around the North Gate, the 3 undying Emperor sea monsters were shivering in a corner, looking at this scene in fear. Howl, howl, howl! They immediately attacked the black hole space disturbance formation in fear, filled with panic and fear. If they knew this would happen, they wouldn't have listened to that bloated fellow. What other party entering their domain? They would be annihilated in the future. Such a terrifying existence, even if they entered their domain and chased them away, they wouldn't say anything. Howl, howl, howl! Ao Crab let out a furious howl. The 3 undying Emperor level 1 sea monsters trembled. Roar, roar, roar! They suddenly lay on the ground and showed their submission to Ao Crab with respect. It was too ferocious. Ao Crab was simply too ferocious to them. One of their own kind, who was stronger than them, was killed. Even if they didn't submit, they would be killed. To the sea monsters and desolate beasts, it was not wrong to submit to the strong. Wang Xian was slightly stunned when he saw the 3 sea monsters actually submit. Ao Crab, suppress them and make them submit. Wang Xian flew over immediately and said to Ao Crab, "It's the Dragon King." Ao Crab nodded immediately and looked down at the 3 level 1 immortal king sea monsters. Submit. A terrifying pressure covered them. At the same time, Wang Xian flew over and squeezed out 3 drops of dragon blood. Devour, don't resist. Ao, he warned with a face full of killing intent. Ao. The 3 immortal king sea monsters didn't dare to resist at all. They immediately nodded respectfully and didn't dare to move. A smile appeared on Wang Xian's face. Go and get rid of the sea monsters elsewhere. He continued to order Ao. It's the Dragon King. Ao, he nodded, immediately flying towards the west gate. My God, that undying level 2 sea monster was killed by the warrior from the Dragon Palace. Look at those 3 sea monsters, the Kanglan python and the others were actually subdued by the Dragon King. They stood in front of him and didn't dare to move. Hiss, the sea monsters in the underground sea were all escaping. The Dragon Palace is simply too terrifying, especially that lord from the Dragon Palace, he's too powerful. Within the Dragon Palace, the people from the Tianzi continent watched the scene, their faces filled with shock. All the undying Emperor-level sea monsters in the entire underground sea attacked, along with countless Eternal God Lord-level sea monsters. However, facing the Dragon Palace, they were all killed in a frenzy. 2 undying Emperor-level sea monsters had died, 3 had submitted. With such terrifying strength, it wasn't hard to calm down the underground sea. As for the west and south, everyone could already predict that when the undying God King level 3 warrior from the Dragon Palace charged over, the sea monster invasion would be completely over. The current Dragon Palace isn't much weaker than the Overlord sect. Xian Tianzi and Mo Hen exchanged glances and exclaimed in shock. It's good to have the Dragon Palace. This way, we can go to the greater world to take a look in the future and not have to spend most of our time here. Xian Tianzi revealed a smile. The reason why he hadn't improved all these years was firstly because of his talent, and secondly because of the opportunities. He wanted to guard the Tianzi continent all year round. Naturally he wouldn't get any opportunities. After the Dragon Palace settled the underground sea, he could explore the starry skies and search for his own opportunities. Howl, howl, howl. Outside, the roars of the undying emperor could be clearly heard by everyone. Just as everyone expected, after Ao Crab arrived, the undying sea monsters began to flee madly. The undying emperor could barely escape, but the other eternal god lords couldn't. The undying emperor could imprison the eternal god lord, making it impossible for him to escape. Very quickly, a large number of eternal god lord sea monsters were killed. This time, as the entire underground sea monster horde was unleashed, there were 500,000 to 600,000 eternal god lord level sea monsters, of which there were over 200 pinnacle eternal god lord level sea monsters. Under the attacks of Ao Xie and the rest of the Dragon Palace warriors, they were swiftly killed. Rumble, the sea monster warriors that attacked the Dragon Palace this time took up about 80% of the entire underground sea. At least 80%. Now that all of them have been killed by the Dragon Palace, doesn't that mean that the crisis in the underground sea of the Tianzi continent has been solved? The Tianzi continent has been fighting with the sea monsters for millions of years. I didn't expect that we could see the underground sea being pacified today. At this moment, everyone in the Tianzi continent of the Dragon Palace looked on with excitement. Some of the elders couldn't help but burst into laughter. Humans had been fighting with the sea monsters for millions of years, and more than 10 million humans died in the sea monsters every year. Many of their elders and descendants had died in the mouths of the sea monsters. Now that the crisis in the underground sea was almost resolved, some people were so happy that they cried. This was a historic moment for the entire Tianzi continent, and it was also the most exciting moment for the entire Tianzi continent. The Dragon Palace, which had pacified the underground sea, would naturally be remembered in the history of the entire Tianzi continent. Because of the Dragon Palace, all the calamities and enemies in the history of the Tianzi continent had been completely eliminated. Dragon King, These are the blood of the escaping immortal king sea monsters. They have all been collected. At the northern gate, a few strange demons appeared in front of Wang Xian and handed him the collected blood. Okay. Wang Xian nodded his head and smiled. This time, the invasion of the sea monsters has saved the Dragon Palace a lot of time. He looked at the fresh blood in his hand and the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. He looked at the corpses that were being absorbed by the ground in front of him. With so many corpses, Wang Xian could not predict how much the Dragon Palace would be able to improve. Putting everything else aside, the combat strength of the Immortal King could be increased by at least 30 to 40. Ao Crab's combat strength could be increased by at least 4 to 5. As for the Immortal King level 4 combat strength, it required too many resources. These resources were completely insufficient. Even so, Wang Xian was already satisfied. Most importantly, with this fresh blood, the 11 Immortal King sea monsters that escaped could be captured. However, these Immortal King sea monsters were not ready to be killed. Instead, they were ready to be tamed and sold. 14 Immortal King sea monsters. This was a terrifying amount of resources. After being sold, it would be easy for Wang Xian to advance one level. He might even have the combat strength of a level 3 Immortal King. Are those people from the Heaven Beast Corporation? Wang Xian thought of the 6 figures in the sky above the Dragon Palace. Each of them had the strength of an Immortal King. Among the people he had offended, only the Heaven Beast Corporation had such strength. If there's a chance, let them know the price. Chapter 2424. 2424 2424, Underground C3. Wang Wang. The sea monsters attacked quickly and died quickly. In the face of the absolute power of the Dragon Palace, countless sea monsters fell in front of the palace, turning into dragon blood in the dragon pool. With so many sea monsters, it could actually increase the entire Dragon Palace's power by 2 to 3 times, maybe even 4 to 5 times. After all, Ao Xie's swallowing dragon race, after swallowing large amounts of eternal god country undyings, their power would undergo a qualitative chain. I'm sorry, everyone. I can't entertain you anymore. Our Dragon Palace is preparing to take this opportunity to eliminate the dozen Immortal King sea monsters that escape. Wang Xian returned to the front of the group of people from the Tianzi continent and said with a smile on his face, "Thank you, Dragon King, for helping our Tianzi continent to solve the problem." "Thank you, Dragon King." At this moment, Shen Tianzi bowed deeply to Wang Xian with a sincere face and thanked him loudly. "Thank you, Dragon King. Thank you, Dragon Palace, for pacifying the underground sea." Mo Hen also bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Dragon King. Thank you, Dragon Palace, for pacifying the underground sea." At the back, everyone was half kneeling on the ground as they shouted out respectfully and gratefully. A few days ago, when the Dragon King said that he wanted to pacify the underground sea, not many people believed him. However, today, the underground sea had almost been pacified. It was just the Dragon Palace alone. If the Dragon Palace pacified the underground sea, many fewer people would die in the Tianzi continent every year. "Everyone, you don't have to be so polite." Wang Xian looked at all of them and smiled faintly. "This bow is something that we have to do. Since you are all very busy, Dragon King, we shall not disturb you anymore. In a few days, the Tianzi continent will hold a day of liberation. I wonder if the Dragon King will have the time then?" Shen Tianzi shook his head and asked Wang Xian with a smile. "A day of liberation? Let's see then. If I don't go, I will send people from the Dragon Palace over." Wang Xian nodded and said, "All right, we won't disturb you anymore." Shen Tianzi cupped his hands and led everyone from the Tianzi continent away. Behind them, everyone's faces were filled with excitement. This time, not only did they broaden their horizons, they also received this huge piece of good news. Today could be said to be the liberation day of the entire Tianzi continent. In the future, they would no longer need to worry about their own comfort. The soldiers would no longer need to guard the front lines and fight against the sea monsters day and night. If today's matter is announced, I'm afraid that the entire Tianzi continent will be in an uproar. Everyone held back the excitement in their heart. Some young men and women were prepared to show off on the AI when they returned this time. Dragon King, all the sea monsters outside have been cleared. Not long after the people from the Tianzi continent left, Aohe and the rest rushed over and reported to Wang Xian, "Get ready. Take the opportunity to finish off the 11 immortal king sea monsters in the underground sea." Wang Xian immediately said, "It's the Dragon King." The members of the Dragon Palace nodded. Soon, all the immortal king combat strength members of the Dragon Palace had gathered. "Let's go." Wang Xian took out drops of blood and used the formation to locate the sea monsters. After locking onto a sea monster's location, they moved and flew away immediately. The 12 immortal king-level powerhouses of the Dragon Palace were sailing in the underground sea. No sea monster dared to approach them. Back then, Wang Xian had to be careful when he entered the underground sea. Now, he had no scruples at all. More than 10 minutes later, Wang Xian and the rest arrived at the territory of an immortal king sea monster. The immortal king sea monster's divine kingdom was hidden in the void crack. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult to find it. However, Wang Xian had a general location. With more than 10 immortal kings searching together, they could still find it. Now that Wang Xian and the rest had found the nest, it was much simpler. They could either submit or die. Time passed slowly. It was not an easy task to find the nest of the undying godly monarch sea monsters. Some of the nests of the undying godly monarch sea monsters were hidden very well. Even if they knew the general location, they still spent more than 10 hours. And just as the Dragon Palace subdued the sea monsters one by one, the entire Tianzi continent was in an uproar. Not only did the young men and women who came to the underground sea like to show off, even Mohen Emperor liked to show off. The first thing he did when he came out of the ocean was to roar. "The Dragon Palace is invincible." 10 minutes ago, 16 undying sea monsters led 80% of the sea monsters to invade the Dragon Palace. They were killed by the Dragon Palace warrior. With the Dragon Palace's strength, the underground sea will be pacified in a few days. In the future, the entire underground sea will be ruled by the Dragon King. With the Dragon Palace as the main force, our Tianzi continent will be completely liberated. This shout made battle technique Mohen's face turn red. He had used all his strength. Battle technique Mohen was excited too. A god emperor being trapped in the Tianzi continent, they weren't happy either, but what could they do? This was their homeworld, his home. His descendants were all here. Furthermore, due to the existence of the underground sea, at least tens of thousands of his descendants had died in battle, or even more. The peace of the underground sea represented the stability of the heavenly swamp continent. Battle Dharma Mohen's voice resounded across half of the heavenly swamp continent. Everyone who heard this voice was immediately stunned. This seems to be the voice of Jean Fa ancestor. It's his voice. What? A dozen undying ocean monsters from the underground sea invaded the Dragon Palace and were killed by the warriors of the Dragon Palace. The underground sea is about to be pacified? Is this real or fake? It can't be a lie, This is the voice of Jean Fa ancestor. Everyone who heard the voice felt unbelievable. More than a dozen godly monarch sea monsters invaded the Dragon Palace. All of them were killed by the experts of the Dragon Palace. The underground sea was pacified. Every piece of news was extremely shocking and unbelievable. Some people even wondered if this was the voice of the Patriarch of War and the Godly Monarch of War. The person in charge of the intelligence system announced this good news to the entire Tianzi continent immediately, announced that the Liberation Day will be set in 3 days, and the entire continent will celebrate. At the Wall of Protection, the highest commander also grinned and said happily to the old man beside him, "Yes, sir." The old man also nodded excitedly and immediately gave the order. Soon, a pop-up window forcefully appeared on the AI. The Dragon Palace had pacified the underground sea, and the underground sea would be ruled by the Dragon King and the Dragon Palace. The title was accompanied by a simple introduction of the situation just now. When everyone saw the forced image on the AI, their faces were slightly stunned, and then their bodies began to tremble. If Mohen's roar just now had caused many people to have some doubts, then the announcement on the AI would completely announce the liberation of the Tianzi continent. Today was destined to go down in history. The Dragon Palace and the Dragon King were destined to shake the entire Tianzi continent. Chapter 24-25. 2425-2425. The strength of the Dragon Palace had increased tremendously. Just as the entire Tianzi continent was decorated with lanterns, and the people of the entire Tianzi continent were cheering, Wang Xian led a group of powerhouses from the Dragon Palace to clear out the last sea monster in the underground sea. Out of the 11 immortal God King sea monsters, 4 of them would rather die than submit. They were killed by Wang Xian and the rest. The remaining 7 were all subdued. At the same time, in the nest of these sea monsters, Wang Xian had a lot of unexpected gains. 1 young immortal king, 2 immortal king-level godly herbs and 1 godly tree. There were also large amounts of immortal king-level metal materials. It could be said that all the treasures in the underground sea of the entire Tianzi continent had been taken over by these immortal king sea monsters. They had been able to break through to their current level mostly because of these treasures. Just these treasures alone could increase the Dragon Palace's strength by 2 undying emperor levels. With this, the underground sea has been completely pacified. From now on, Ao Crab's devouring dragon only needs to find the god countries that have been killed by the eternal god lord to devour, and it will be able to increase its strength too quickly. The Dragon Palace needs to settle down for a while. The improvement this time is too fast. A smile appeared on Wang Xian's face as he led the members of the Dragon Palace towards the Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Gui, you can make the arrangements for the improvement this time. Upon returning to the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian handed over the allocation of resources to Prime Minister Gui. Prime Minister Gui was dedicated to considering the overall situation of the Dragon Palace. He would not have any selfish motives. Wang Xian was very relieved to leave the matters of the Dragon Palace to him. After the order was given, all the members of the Dragon Palace immediately began to improve. He led his subordinates and began to sweep the entire underground sea, searching for the eternal god country and god-level god country. This time, the devouring dragon was the fastest to improve. Their devouring god country could improve quickly. This time, there were a total of 15 undying god countries, and there was even a level 2 undying god country. This undying emperor's energy was even higher than a god emperor. After all, an undying god country was his energy source. They only needed to swallow 2 undying emperors, and they would be able to level up to undying emperor. One could imagine how terrifying the swallowing dragon's level up would be. He was only a level 3 undying emperor. He could add another 7, along with the other 100,000 eternal god lord level swallowing dragon. A single devouring dragon was more powerful than the entire Dragon Palace. The main reason was that the devouring dragons were the core of the Bug Clan's technology. Of course, the devouring dragons had a flaw too. They could only fight 2 levels above them. They couldn't compare to the pinnacle dragon of the Dragon Palace. Even he couldn't fight 3 levels above them. His upper level was lower than the dragon god. Even so, it was already very terrifying. Back then, the notorious bug race that swept across the universe was no joke. Wang Xian sat on the dragon throne with a smile on his face. He took out Qing Yu and Ling Xiu's hair and cast a formation. After he still couldn't sense anything, he kept it properly. Qing Yu, Ling Xiu, don't be anxious. I will find you guys very soon. Very soon, he mumbled. Before long, the divine dragon's roar would ring out in the starry sky. At that time, the entire greater world would stop trembling. When he arrived at the location of the dragon transformation pool, Wang Xian saw more than 100,000 members of the Dragon Palace entrenched inside. A smile appeared on his face. The group of girls were also cultivating inside. I will rest for a period of time. After that, I will sell 10 immortal king desolate beasts and 1 young immortal king. If Wang Xian could devour all the immortal king sea monsters, his strength would be able to increase by now. However, if he were to sell them, one would be equivalent to about 20 corpses. Naturally, it would be more cost-effective to sell them. Wang Xian could wait. The entire Dragon Palace was improving rapidly. The Heaven Lake continent above was celebrating. The entire continent was filled with joy and excitement. In order to thank the Dragon King for his achievements, The Tianzi continent had built a 10,000-meter-tall divine dragon that was emitting bright light at the position of the wall of protection. The image of the divine dragon was completely based on the image of the divine dragon that was entrenched on the ocean stabilizing needle in the Dragon Palace. Many of them had seen this image before. The 10,000-meter-tall divine dragon looked in the direction of the entire ocean, representing the Dragon King guarding the ocean, representing the achievements of the Dragon Palace and the Dragon King. Even the Federation changed the calendar, changing the first day of Liberation Day to the first year of the Dragon calendar. At this point, the new era of the Tianzi continent had begun. The Dragon Palace and Tianzi continent were filled with jubilation, while the Heavenly Beast Corporation headquarters was dead silent. The Sky Valley King Beast has been confirmed to have been killed. Director Bay sat in a luxurious room in the headquarters and growled with a gloomy face. Around him, more than a dozen undying God King warriors sat around him. This time, almost all of the Heaven Beast Corporation's experts had gathered together. The Sky Valley King Beast was the strongest battle pet in the entire Heaven Beast Corporation. It was also the face of the entire Heaven Beast Corporation. Most of the time, the publicity was done with the Sky Valley King Beast. Now, they were 100% sure that the Sky Valley King Beast had fallen. Not even a drop of blood essence could escape. The Sky Valley King Beast has been killed. 3 bosses have been killed. Are we just going to let it go like this? An old man slammed the table, roaring angrily. Who? In the leader's seat, the chairman of the Sky Beast Corporation closed his eyes, leaning back on the chair with a helpless expression. The other party has an undying God King level 3 existence. If you want revenge, don't even think about it, he said bitterly. Are we just going to let this go? The old man clenched his fists unwillingly. Let it go, the chairman said calmly. Even if they didn't let it go, what could they do? Fight till the end? The difference in strength wasn't huge. Killing 100 enemies would only result in 80 losses. They weren't willing to suffer such heavy losses. They could only forget about it. The rest of the people fell silent. No one said a word. So what if they were unwilling? Fight. They had to be prepared to bear the loss. It was obvious that the Heaven Beast Corporation did not want to bear the loss. Time passed very quickly. 2 months had passed. The advancement of all the members of the Dragon Palace had ended. Wang Xian was floating in the sky above the dragon field. He was looking ahead with a smile on his face. There were more than 150,000 members of the Dragon Palace. The weakest among them had already reached Immortal King level 3. To be able to achieve such a terrifying improvement, he had consumed the entire underground sea's resources. At the front of the group stood 35 figures. Each of them was emitting a terrifying aura. This was the combat strength of the Dragon Palace's God King level. There were a total of 35 of them. Including Wang Xian himself, there was a total of 36 of them. Among them, Ao Xie and the other 7 devouring dragons were the most powerful. Very good. The elevation of the Dragon Palace this time is the first step for the Dragon Palace to officially enter the Land of Brilliance. Next, we will make the name of the Dragon Palace resound throughout the greater world. The Tianzi continent is only the first step.